Okay, I think we can begin.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Great. This today will be the episode 20. It's interesting. We just drag on like
It just continues.
like 20 episodes already.
That's awesome. I didn't know that you were already at that many.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Like I'm really surprised. Some of them just customers. Like we're chatting, and then I said I want to tell people a story, and then some of them they just really amazing people, really open-minded, and they're not shy.
There's a risk in that when they're not shy, but it's good. Actually, you get some nice, honest stories.
If it were me, actually, I would probably think twice or say no or something.
You're doing this YouTube channel, and I'm not already getting us off course, but you already do these reviews, and then you're doing all these interviews. Yeah. What are you afraid of? You've got nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to say no to. I'd love to see somebody just interview you.
Yeah. In the January 2021, when I got the chance, like the media thing, so the Global News was the first one. They want me on TV, and they sent a team to have video inside. So that time, it took me like 5 minutes. Somebody called me. I was thinking to like debate within myself to say, because I just really don't want to show my face.
Interesting.
Yeah, because before I had a full-time IT job. That's why I don't want to be fired. I don't want to get fired.
Don't want to draw attention to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
But even that time, January 2021, I already not working. I kind of laid off already during the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's still like Chinese living here. We want to live a little bit low profile.
Sure.
Don't want my picture face on the internet.
No, here you are.
Yeah. And your name is Mitch, right?
Yeah, Mitch Dyer.
Mitch Dyer. That's amazing. I kind of we met on the Twitter, and then because I work in IT. Mm-hmm. Even I don't play a lot of games, but the gaming is very close to IT.
Yeah, of course.
And it's really amazing. Like you wrote for a lot of good games, right?
I think they were good. Yeah, I got to work on a couple Star Wars games. I got to work on Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Star Wars Squadrons. Also did a little bit of work on a DC Comics game called Gotham Knights. Yeah,
and also the pandemic did us like the restaurant business is not good.
No, I can't.
But for the gaming, it's better, right?
It was interesting because for a long time, when you work inside of a studio full time, right? You're at a game developer. It's usually you have your office and your team of anywhere from 50 to Ubisoft in Montreal has like 3,000 employees in Montreal. So for teams to make
3,000,
across they have several buildings and different teams making different games, and then they cross collaborate with studios in Singapore and Kiev and all over the place. So they it's a very technologically demanding kind of industry. So when COVID hit, we were living in a point where working from home was detrimental to the project. It slowed people down because they couldn't. It's just really hard to on a remote desktop to go in and work in a piece of technology that's very demanding on a PC. So it's hard to make games in general. And then when you add remote to that, it got really difficult. But to your point about IT, the IT people across the games industry, I would credit single-handedly with making video game development possible and successful in a remote capacity. Like the IT folks, when I worked at Electronic Arts, Frank, they were amazing. Like Frank and his team were just unbelievable in terms of making sure that everybody had everything they needed and putting everybody in a position to succeed. It was amazing. So now that I think studios and teams have figured out how to work remote and how to better communicate after 18 months of this, I think we've hit a point where I think we'll see a lot more teams working remotely. I think we'll see people hiring for remote positions because it's not just possible now, but it's successful. Yeah,
it's successful. Yeah. So especially IT, benefiting IT. Also for the gaming, the market is getting bigger as well.
It's enormous. Yeah, I think
people are staying home.
Yeah, and I might be making this up. Like I know that financially, games were massively successful in the pandemic, probably for that reason, right? Like you're at home more often. What are you going to do?
And also
all this time, extra time at home.
Instead of spending money on restaurants, they spend money on games.
Sorry, games is taking away all your money.
I think if they have stats, probably they can show 50 increase or something, 50%, whatever. It's a big gain, right?
It's wild. I think I I think this is correct, but I think video games is like the most financially successful entertainment medium that there is. Like, it just makes enormous amounts of money because there's so many people who play games, right?
Yeah, it's
and
amazing.
It's not just sitting at home and playing your consoles. It's things on your mobile phone or whatever. It's everywhere. VR.
But have you heard the news, like, I guess several months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, like what happened in China? They tried to limit the kind of, like, younger than 18, they limit the hours playing games.
Yeah, I saw that. I couldn't
That's a big blow as well, right?
And it's things like, I don't know what you can do about it as a citizen.
Yeah, and also I'm not following, but the shares for the gaming company in China must be hit really hard.
Yeah, I don't keep up with I wish I knew more about that realm because China has such a huge impact in video games, and now you're seeing a lot more Chinese companies like NetEase and Tencent investing in companies here and trying to get studios up in, like NetEase started a studio in Montreal.
Already, I have a friend, a very good friend. He sent back to Hangzhou for training or working with the colleagues to prepare for this. It's the NetEase.
I had spoken to them about a year ago about a position, and it was interesting because my understanding was when you get hired in Montreal, they want you to go out and
to China,
Hangzhou to train it.
Hangzhou.
Specifically to interface with your Chinese teammates, right? Because you're working with studios, presumably, we're in Quebec, so we already have the language barrier of English and French, because there's a lot of Anglo folk like me who enjoy Montreal. And then adding on to that, like another language barrier and the time zone difference, right? So being able to send people out.
The benefit could be you can work 24 hours a day.
Just be on call.
But yes, are they open already? Because we had news in Chinese media. They said they opened up office NetEase in Montreal already.
Yeah, I don't know what their status is.
But it's open.
Yeah, they're hiring up and they've got people. And,
oh, really? Yeah. That's interesting. My friend's supposed to come back. He went. Almost before the pandemic, he went back. Had a baby already in Hangzhou. He's not coming back.
Wait, he's been there that long?
Yeah, very long. I don't know what's happening to this guy. He still has a house in West Island. We very close, like basically 500 meters.
Oh,
within.
Perfect.
So we take
over.
Sometimes we take a look inside the house and
just make sure everything's where it should be.
Everything is okay. And it's crazy. Like that time before the pandemic, they were talking about setting up office. So he was working like for a company in Montreal. The game, I don't know which company, but I guess he jumped to the NetEase because NetEase was very promising that time. Yeah,
because Montreal is such, it's very rich for talent for games development because there's so many studios, and there's also the tax benefits. Like if you start a studio in Montreal, you get a nice tax break. So it's a good incentive for a lot of companies, American, Chinese, wherever you're coming from, to invest in studios.
I heard that as well. The IT company, they get a lot of tax credits from government. If you have maintained a team of, I remember last time I worked at IT, they said as long as you maintain a company size more than 100, they give you a lot of money back.
Yeah, and I think there might even be scaling bonuses or, just like extra, like, good job, like you hired more people, or, in 5 years you need to hire 500 people, and when you hit those cadences and you reach that number of employees, then you get your, I think, better tax breaks.
That's how they attracted. Like Montreal is like, is that like just like a boasting, or is that real? Like Montreal is kind of has a big important city for gaming business.
No, I think it's for real.
It's real.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just saying like we are grateful.
Totally. Yeah, like when I think about major hubs for game development, Montreal's the first one that comes to mind. Like more so than Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York. Like there's certainly a lot of teams in those cities, but not to the scale and degree that there is here.
Okay, what attracted you here? Because you said you were like in the West, right?
Yeah, so I grew up in Alberta. And
Alberta is the which city?
It's out west. I grew up in a small town called Carstairs.
Okay.
It was about an hour outside of Calgary.
Okay. Calgary is the capital, right? It's the biggest city.
Edmonton. I think Calgary is the biggest city, but Edmonton is the capital. I don't really know how it works. Yeah. I don't know who makes these decisions.
It's Ottawa is not the biggest city.
Yeah, exactly.
In Canada, same thing.
Yeah, so I grew up in like the rural farmland prairies. Okay. And then when I was 23, I moved to San Francisco for a job. I worked in games media before I worked in games development, so I was covering games, right? I was interviewing developers and writing reviews and previews and all sorts of features about games. And after a few years in San Francisco, I got was contacted about an opportunity to write a video game, which wasn't something I had ever really thought about doing. It was something that...
So good at reviewing.
Yeah, because I had always just talked about games, and I liked that very much. But at the time that I was, thinking about leaving games media, I didn't really know what I wanted. So being able to be creative with a team and make games was something I never really thought I could be prepared for. Not really something I thought, I have the skills for this, or because making games is so hard, and it requires training and school and things like that to understand the various complicated disciplines. And I didn't have any of that, so I got really lucky. And writing being, it's a lot less technical than being a game designer or being an animator or being a programmer. Certainly.
But you have to be really good at English or writing literature thing.
And that's the only thing I've ever been good at is language. As I fail to think of words, as I brag about how good I am at English. But, I was good at English class, and I liked writing essays in college, and I liked creative writing. Even though I don't think I was very good at it, I did enjoy the process.
Cool. Shakespeare thing. You can read Shakespeare.
I can try to read Shakespeare. It's difficult. It's definitely tough still for me. But I love seeing how stories have evolved over time. Like, you look at something like Shakespeare, and it was the language of the people at the time, and it was very different. And the way he wrote.
Like ancient.
Yeah, and for us now, like that Old English is like a little bit incomprehensible, but at the time it was how people were talking. It wasn't, and I think about Hamilton the same way. Like the Broadway play Hamilton is the same way, right? It's a hip hop play about history, and it's using the language of modern people to speak about events of the past.
But that Shakespeare only 300, how many years ago?
200-300?
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it was the.
But the Chinese language is crazy. We call it ancient Chinese.
Yeah.
It's the character right now. It's in mainland we call simplified Chinese. In Taiwan, Hong Kong still use the traditional character. It's not simplified. We can guess it's more like strokes. It's more difficult to write, but you can understand. You can read still. Read. But the problem is the meaning. They change over time. And also they use much less characters to express a sentence, to have a sentence. We have in the Chinese subject in school, we always have the traditional Chinese, the texture, the text from the history book, for example, 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, we still have that same textbook. So we're reading that. It's so difficult, you have to understand.
Yeah.
Like every sentence, they have only 4 or 5 characters instead of like 20, 10, something like the people talking today.
Yeah.
But that's like that time they were just using much less characters to express their stuff. So for us, like it's very difficult to pass. But today we're not writing an article or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's the big difference. But Shakespeare is only like 300 years ago. But for Chinese,
and it's changed so rapidly.
Yeah, so rapid. Like. Yeah. Some stuff, the Charles Dickens, the Tale of the Two Cities, whatever the book, it's crazy. I'm learning my English. I try to read the original books. It took me really, on the train, I have to look up the dictionary for so many times.
If it makes you feel better, so do I.
Yeah.
Some of those old books are rough. Yeah. Stay away from James Joyce.
Yeah. Sometimes you enjoy the classic, the ideas behind the authors, but like it's so difficult, like crazy.
Do you use your library downstairs? Because the restaurant, if you don't know, the Untitled restaurant, the first floor has a librris where you can donate and rent books, which I love. And next time I come, by the way, this is my first time in the restaurant. I've eaten your food a billion times. This is my first time here. Okay. Next time I need to remember to bring a book.
Yeah, because the pandemic, almost 2 years, the pandemic.
Yeah, because we found you right before the pandemic. Yeah, and then that hit, and we never got to come down.
The pandemic is really, it makes like it just lose track of time, like almost.
It's wild.
Yeah, 2 years. Like,
I genuinely can't believe that. And I don't.
I think we have another one more year to go.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah, 1 more year to go.
We're so close, but not quite there yet.
I always like, when I try to learn English, I have to listen to radio a lot, watch a lot of TV shows, American shows. And another thing, I read a lot of books in English. So the best, I think, is, the more, I always say, like, the more literature kind of stuff you have, it's more difficult for us to more beneficial, more useful for us to learn English. So I like the Twilight. I read the whole 3 books of
That's perfect because it's such simple language.
Exactly.
The whole book, and it's very direct statements about how people are feeling, so you're never confused.
Exactly. And also other books like the modern setup, like modern life setup.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of vocabulary inside the daily conversations.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I really enjoy the classics, but I really like what helps me a lot the books from today. Like whatever popular writers, like it's amazing. Like this may not be that great as literature, but helped me a lot.
Yeah, but that's not what you're doing it for. If it's good literature, great. But if it helps you learn language, and that's what you're there for, perfect.
And for the TV, I always watch that called Desperate Housewives. It's amazing.
Is it really?
Yeah, because all the dialogues, you're a writer.
Sure.
But for them, the writer, they write everything, all dialogue about daily life, everything.
Yeah.
And there's no background music. There's no that heavy background, like all this. So it's clear.
So it's just focusing on the words.
Yeah,
and the
exactly.
people.
I even don't.
That's kind of perfect for learning language.
Exactly. And they constantly talking.
Yeah.
Everybody was talking.
And if it's about mundane, everyday things and living a life and having a home and having kids and the family, like it's perfect to learn things that you can use.
And at the beginning or end, they have a monologue or whatever, the narrative. It's amazing. You just practice your listening. It's amazing. And that's my best ever. I recommend to everybody they start learning English or they want to kind of get familiar with but others like the CSI or the Law and Order, you have all these you cannot listen clearly because they have lots of background, the soundtracks, whatever.
Yeah, I never thought about that as a distraction, but it makes huge sense. Yeah,
like some action movies, you barely listen 10 words in the whole movie, and then always when they say Stallone, what is the First Blood. Okay. The guy, you can never learn English from this guy. And
it's too loud.
Yeah, and also he has an accent. He did that kind of voice.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, he's way down here too.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, some of them I can enjoy the movie. So it depends on the purpose.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Actually, I forgot to. We should start ordering.
Oh yeah, we can do that. We've just been talking. Do you find that? Yeah, thank you. That you prefer learning language through text or listening? Like, is reading preferable to you, or do you learn more and
actually
more
for me it's like watching TV shows would be more enjoyable for me. So that's I kind of lazy a lot of times. I want to
it's the best way to learn.
My best life would be watch movies all day long.
That does sound ideal.
Yeah. But in the books, I read a lot of the classic literature from British, French literatures, but they're Chinese translation. When I was in high school, I read a lot of them.
Have you done it the other way? Have you read Chinese literature that's been translated to English?
No, they won't. There's best is called the Dream of Red Chamber. That's the classic. I guess the #1 in China literature.
Dream of Red Chamber.
Yeah, Red Chamber. It's about rich noble family.
I'm gonna write it down.
It's that one is. It's like Shakespeare. Literally, it's like Shakespeare in Chinese. It's very thick in old Chinese.
That's what's amazing about ancient Chinese stories are so large. All of them, like Water Margin and Journey to the West, they're huge. And
you can Google it, the Dream of Red Chamber. In Chinese, 红楼梦, Red Chamber, Red Building Dream, 红楼梦. It's crazy. For us, it's very difficult to read as well because it's ancient Chinese. But
it comes in several volumes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like an encyclopedia collection. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's
okay. Good to know.
It's totally like Shakespeare, totally. And this guy, the author, they say he's from a big family, noble family. He's super rich when he grew up. But probably when he was in his 15, 16 years old, his family kind of going down, the whole wealth of the family. So he got the experience of super rich family, and so that's why in the book he wrote the story about the decorations of a building, the people relationship, the whole thing.
It's all very
it's out of touch. Ordinary people just could not. It's like a royal family.
Yeah, nobody can I can't connect with this, man.
And also he wrote a lot of poems inside the whole book. Thousands of them to describe all kind of different characters. They wrote poems but it's all from him.
Yeah.
That guy is. They said that this guy is from Alien. It's an alien.
Yeah. How do you write that much?
It's totally 120 chapters, but before he died, he only finished 80 chapters. So the last 40 chapters is from another author starting his work to finish.
Just trying to complete it.
So the ending, there's a lot of like associations, literary associations in China. They studied this book, so a lot of them saying like the ending should not be this way or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a big thing, huge.
All right, so beyond that menu, so my go-to meal, the thing that I have ordered every single time I have ever eaten your food is the twice cooked pork.
Oh yeah, that one is good.
Fabulous stuff.
So it's, you enjoy the real Chinese food.
See, this is the thing is I've only ever lived here, so I don't know what's real and what's this like. Like I know that like there's a couple chicken dishes that are definitely considered to be more North Americanized.
Twice cooked because it's very little bit greasy.
Yeah,
you know, it's
I love it. I love that so much. It's perfect because it pairs so nice with rice because it's so greasy. Ah, so good. Yeah, like the General Tao chicken. I know it's like that's like a North Americanized kind of Chinese
I like
food, right?
it. Yeah, it's really. This one is great invention from California, from San Francisco.
There you go.
You stayed there four
I was
years.
there 4 years. Yeah.
San Francisco is amazing.
It's amazing.
The most batch of Chinese, like I guess in 1800 or even 1700, Dynasty Qing time. So they were tricked. Actually, they were sold by some agents in China. They sold them as a cheap labor. They promised them like there's a country called America.
Yeah.
And that's why America translated in Chinese is beautiful country, 美国, beautiful country, America. And then they promised them, you had a poor life here, there's another country there. You go there, there's a city called San Francisco. They translate like a golden city, golden mountain, because they dig gold. They said the gold everywhere. So that's even San Francisco in Chinese, the name, nothing to do with San Francisco. We call it Old Gold Mountain. Literally 旧金山. So it's the first one. That's why they end up like doing the railway, pave the railway tracks, doing the explosive, right? Yeah. They say Chinese, okay, you go there to do the explosive, and then they set up, probably blow yourself up. And so that's
surely no safety regulations for the immigrants that they had brought in.
That was the first batch of Chinese people in North America.
Wow.
They were tricked. Actually,
I'm honestly surprised that it doesn't go farther back.
No, not so much.
Japanese
probably, yes. Japanese in Hawaii, they were like, I guess they were kind of adventurous some early time. Because they're living island, I guess they're more like British. Sometimes they study history, they're saying like more like expanding in their mind because they have very little resources like on an island. So they look for land. They look for like British.
Yeah.
Japanese, the same idea. I kind of think too much, I guess.
No, it's good. It's good to know your history.
Yeah. General Tao chicken was invented there. It's amazing.
That's interesting. What else do you recommend? What do you think is like the star dish on this menu?
Star?
Like if you had a signature dish.
I think would be the braised pork belly with sweet potato. But that one will be a little bit overlapping.
Really?
A little bit overlapping with the twice cooked pork because it's from pork belly as well.
Interesting. I've never had the braised.
Yeah, another one is the spicy diced chicken. That one has bones. I don't mind to eat the bones in front of camera. And
it's good to get the microphone's nice and close.
I used to worry a little bit, but then after that, once you like in front of camera several times, you don't mind anymore.
Yeah.
3-cup chicken is always good, but it has bones as well, but it's tender.
Ooh.
We can try the sweet sour pork ribs. This one actually, a little bit, we had this before was stewed, like kind of little bit longer time, so it's little bit more tender. Right now it's less tender. That's why I'm saying like maybe people don't like that anymore. I kind of want to see that.
Do you change your menu very often? Like maybe not the items on it, but how you prepare it?
No.
Pretty
Actually,
consistent.
even the items on the menu, we just get a little bit less. We don't add new items.
Oh, okay.
That's a lot of things there. A lot of Chinese customers, they will say like you will do a bad business because they always want new items on the menu. But I'm kind of doing opposite. Because for us, if the kitchen, the team, if you want to maintain the quality or improve the quality, you have to have that stable.
Well, and it's just not practical that, if you have 100 items on your menu as opposed to 50, now you have so much more.
Yeah, you get it. You are the first one telling me.
I worked in restaurants for a long time. I get it.
So we have very small menu.
No, it's good. It's nice and focused.
Yeah. I'm an IT engineer, so sometimes you have to keep keep it realistic, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you see, I have a lot of items, but the kitchen will be a mess.
Yeah. What about vegetables? We should probably have some vegetables, some actual vitamins today, besides jalapeno.
That one,
peppers.
The green pepper, green beans is
green beans?
dry fried green beans, always popular.
Oh yeah,
that one.
We order a lot of the green beans until we discovered the cabbage stir fry, and then we started getting the cabbage stir fry. But let's do some green beans.
Actually, I hate people ordering a lot of them because this one taking a lot of time to cut the both ends. We need to cut the ends. I guess maybe thousands of ends already.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
Yeah,
it takes time to.
It does.
Something else we can eat a lot. Do you want some shrimps?
I'm not big on seafood.
Okay.
That's one thing I'm not. I wish I liked seafood because there's so many different and varied ways to do it, but it doesn't work for me a lot of the time.
Do you want to try the eggplant potato bell pepper?
So I do, and I'll tell you why. And it's because I don't like eggplant, but I like your restaurant so much that I feel like I would like your eggplant.
Let's try this.
Let's do it.
Yeah. You want steamed rice as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, please. The classic.
Yeah, we can.
Great. That seems like a lot of food.
Yeah, should be good. I'm gonna run down. Let me check it's still running or not.
I'll spend time with people here.
Okay, great.
No, it's all good. Hello. I don't really have anything to say. We're just vamping until Megan gets back. I love this restaurant, genuinely. Anti-cuisine. It's the good stuff. Like I mentioned, I've never been here, but I love that. So it's 2 floors. The place is huge. Love that. But I love that downstairs, it's so cozy. Like you walk in and there's just a library of books, like a huge amount of bookshelves. You can donate books, bring books. If you can donate books here, libraries, anywhere. Donate books. It's so good. Use libraries. They're amazing. You just get free books. Get a library membership. I love to share books with people. So donating books is always good.
Okay. Actually, do you know Kim Belair?
I do, yeah. Kim Belair. It's the famous Kim Belair who's made your restaurant known to the world. Kim and I run in similar circles because we have similar jobs. We're both working in video game development. We both are writers.
I thought she's a storyteller.
She is, yeah. So she has a company called Sweet Baby, and you can hire Sweet Baby Inc. to do narrative, right? They're like a storytelling services company. And part of that is, Kim came from writing. I'm just like telling Kim's biography now, but Kim wrote games and now has this company where they do writing and they do narrative support and they help teams tell stories.
Cool. So you do know each other.
Yeah, Kim worked on the floor beneath me when I was at Electronic Arts.
Really?
Yeah, we had a mutual friend who introduced us. And then we just, because Kim was the floor beneath me, we just get lunch once a week, hang out and talk games and all that kind of stuff.
That's a small world.
Yeah. And Antai is our favorite restaurant. Both separate before we knew each other. We had talked about that restaurant is so good.
Thank you. Actually, that's amazing. Because for me, I'm from I learned computer science.
Yeah.
So a very safe choice. Mm-hmm. You always as long as you work in IT, you speak some English. I guess go anywhere for me, any country, probably I can find a job. Maybe.
Yeah, because a computer is a computer.
Yeah,
is a computer.
Yeah, so it's a safe choice as a career. That's why. Like you mentioned, you grew up in countryside. Mm-hmm. I happen to grow up in countryside, but it's totally different. I find the countryside in Canada is like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, maybe 1,000 times better than our countryside.
Really?
1,000.
How come?
Because what we have here, they call farmer. In there, we call peasant. It's literally, I don't know.
It's very degrading, just out of the gate.
Yeah, and also it depends the land we we own. It's not own. Even the government owns all land. We just have the right to use it.
It's like a lease.
Yeah, lease. So basically, it depends on the different provinces. Like majority of them 40 years ago, like before the opening up thing, the reform, depends on the province 40 years ago. Some provinces have very little farming land. So for us, we were lucky. I'm from Jiangsu province. So average, like every population person, we had about 2 units. Like 2 units, like it's called more. Like that's kind of about like the acre. The acre here, 1 acre equals 6 units, like Chinese units.
So it's pretty small.
Pretty small, like per population. My family will have grandparents, the grandpa, grandma, and then parents too, and have 3 siblings. And also my one aunt, she married out, but somehow still count as us. So we have the quotation of 8. Quota of 8.
That's a lot of family.
So 8 plus 2, so we almost get 20. That about total family we lived on 3 acres, about 3 acres. But they were in different locations. Because to be fair, the whole village, you need to, some piece of land, they kind of more is better. Just the soil more loosened up. So we end up like, I guess 7, 8 different places. There's 3 acres. So split up by several locations. So you have to grow so little, so small. And that time, like really 8 people living on their thing.
See, in Alberta is the opposite. And I grew up not really liking Alberta because it was so empty. Yeah. Because there's so much farmland, right? You drive down a highway and you could drive for hours and it's just, wheat fields. And
that's the advantage though.
100%. Yeah, it's amazing for the region, of course. Like for the province, it's amazing. But growing up and like...
So your family own a land? Like
no, we lived in a rural area. We lived on a farm for a while, but we weren't farmers.
Really?
No.
We
have family members who are farmers, but my family was more... We lived in the town, and my parents, worked for the town. A lot of my family works for the town.
Okay.
Doing, administration and all that kind of stuff. My mom was a manager at a restaurant for a long, long time, various restaurants all over town. My dad worked at the golf course for a long time, did some
So you did not do any farming thing?
No, but we have family who are farmers, so we would go out to my aunts and uncles and, we'd go bale hay for my Uncle Daryl, that kind of stuff. Feed the cows, all that kind of stuff. So I was exposed to it and was aware of it, but it wasn't my life. Like there was definitely a difference between kids at school who were like, oh, they're a farm kid, right? Like that like after school they're going to go home and bust their ass to go a bunch of work for their dad. Whereas I'm going to go home and play video games with my friend Jesse.
We call them like what we call them, like even the village. As far as I have the memory, I was always working heavy lifting, everything we could, because we are 3 boys, have 2 older brothers. When I was 5, 6, we have to help. We have to. Only my grandparents, they were bodily ill. They were kind of sick. My grandpa, he was like sick and bad or whatever. He had the issues with stomach. So always my only 2 parents, they did the most of things. So we have to contribute. So
of course,
did everything crazy, so heavy. Like as a 6, 7 year.
And lifting a bale of hay is really hard. I don't know if I can do it now, like with these noodle arms.
A lot of things by hand. And then in the village, some kids, we call them. I was tanned a lot, but even today, we exposed to the sun every day. But only few kids in the village. Sometimes even that time they were spoiled. I know 1, 2 brothers. Their parents, they just did not let them do. They just do the homework. And then they did not let them do this kind of crazy thing. They look much paler. They're pale. So I always I did not like them.
That's why I'm so pale, probably.
I was I always blame. Because in Chinese, my color, the tone, it's very, very dark. So they say you are from Malaysia or somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, some people from South Asia more exposed to the sun. When I grew up, my face color was my little bit problem myself. Give me even lower my self-confidence.
Really?
Yeah, it's big deal. And
because you're being othered by people.
Exactly.
Or you're supposed to be in your community.
I always explain them it's not gene related. It's not. My second brother is very pale. I always tell them like my color. I exposed to the sun too much when I was young, but then when I'm in the city, long time not exposing to the sun, but still get the same thing. It's it's a big deal that time. Like in the senior high school, I still have we have a desk, we have a big class, 60 people, students. The desk with 2 guys, and then front of 2 girls. I was doing better on the study, so the 2 girls always asked me questions. So the other guy was a little bit jealous, and he was not good at sports. Everything was not. There's no advantage or something. So one time he literally pulled out my hand, saying, "Look at our hand. Like my hand is darker," and his hand is. He literally said that. That's when I'm 16 already.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Look at if you look.
Horrible.
Yeah. It's like so naive.
Yeah.
It's like when you are 16.
Very narrow worldview.
16, 17, you compare like the color of your hand.
Like it matters at all.
And that guy, but we had a big class, 60 students. But after the graduation, we went to different universities, so we kind of lost contact. Mm-hmm. But that memory, I still remember. It's crazy. Pull out my hand, like he was comparing his kind of, I'm better than you on this. Seriously.
The worst.
Yeah.
The worst kind of people.
Yeah. So it's the farming thing gave me a lot of hard memory.
Yeah.
It's like all the time, like exposing to that time. I don't know if it's global warming or not, but it's definitely the weather was smoothened. Right now, maybe it's even more hotter in the summer, but I did not have the experience. But the winter definitely a lot warmer right now, a lot warmer than when I grew up. It's crazy.
What is the winter like in China? Like where you grew up? Because it's obviously so
huge.
Here,
yeah. And the northern cities, like north to the Great Wall, it's like totally like Montreal weather.
Oh wow!
It's like winter is brutal. But that's why they built 2,000 years ago, built the Great Wall to defend the barbarians from the north. So, but from my province, it's like Jiangsu is very nice in the history rich, kind of relatively rich province because the land is more flat. So they always have the agriculture going on.
Right.
So it's next to Shanghai. Shanghai used to be part of our province, Shanghai, before it was colonized or something by the West. So then they kind of grew too much, so they thought they were above us. So Jiangsu is in the middle, but in the east to the coast. So we were doing fine. But the weather-wise, it's like the winter will be. We used to have -10, like a month or 2 around Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is always the coldest time of the year. It's about very cold, end of January, beginning of February. So that's about -10. In the summer, it could be above 35 Celsius degree. Brutal, very.
Yep, that's a lot. That's harsh when you're doing outdoor manual labor.
Yeah, it's
not fun.
Literally, we have to. I have a lot of aunts. We call I call it aunties, like aunties, uncles in the whole village. As long as one generation above you, it's all aunties and uncles. And we used to get like the weeds in the field. We used to use the kind of that tool is like the head is long and then the head has like a sickle or something. So you plow the field. So the land is loose. So the weed, and you plant them like the soybeans or something by rows, right? So in the middle you plow them. So the weed will be upside down. And we normally did that before 8 o'clock in the morning. We finished everything 6 to 9, something like that. So we did that thing plowing. So the roots will be up, and then when 10, 11, 12 o'clock, the sun came out, and then they dead right away. So that's how how we kill the weeds in the field. But that's the thing. You have to get up super early. Otherwise, when the sun is out, it's even 9, 10. It's crazy. Are
you a morning person now?
No, not at all. This morning, actually, I slept till 9 o'clock. Seriously. I at night I watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah,
so 12, 1. Last night was last night I watched a movie on Netflix.
There you go.
But you know that when it was super hot, we had to. We rode the very poor bicycle, sometimes 2 kilometers the land, the farm. So we rode bicycle to the place. We get there about 6 o'clock in the morning. So we do only 3 hours.
Yeah.
Too hot till 9, 10, 11. But the kids like me, and we have little shed there just to block the sun. So we will rest from noon, from 11 to 2. But the adults, they were still doing that in the field within the little hut, the straw hut. And it's crazy. And then when it's a little bit after 3 or 4, 5 o'clock, we come out to do again. And then 6, 7,
it's an all-day thing.
Yeah. It's very hot in the summer. But the problem is in the winter, we did not have heating at all. That's really brutal in the Shanghai area as well. Even today, in China, I guess after Shandong, Jiangsu is here. A little bit north will be Shandong province. After them, they have the heating. They use the hot water. The system, the boil, like everybody, they got the pipes, the thing. I saw it here as well. So the hot water running through that thing, like a radiator thing.
Yeah.
But
not common where you were.
But no, by law or by something, by the tradition, if you not south to that province, there's a kind of a line. We never had that thing. But if you very north, like they always have that heating. So for us, the winter, it's very brutal. Bad, very, very bad. It's -5, -2, but it's inside and outside the same temperature.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, and even like we did not have the window. That time glass was a big thing. I remember we built the house, like at the beginning was by mud. The wall is built by mud. We help like the kid. Like this family had to set up a house. So by mud, all the adults, like relatives, all the same family name, they all have to help.
Okay.
They all have to help. So we kind of doing that the mud thing. They use the straw. I guess the straw mixed with mud, and then they lay that
keep
wall.
It stable, I guess.
Yeah. So they did put up some window, the wood frame, but over time there's no glass actually. At the beginning, I guess that family or our family, the parents, they decided let's spend some money on this expensive window. But after only a month or like a year, a lot of them broken. Anyway, even by us, maybe kids playing.
Yep.
Somehow it's all like the window will come from everywhere. Like
and if you're spending most of your year living in relative warmth, like a season that gets cold like that, you're not going to be prepared for it because you don't need to most of the time.
Exactly. And in the summer, that's why the summer is super hot, 30, 35 degrees. At night, we kind of sleep at 8. We had dinner 6, 7, like 8 or 9. We could not sleep inside because we have to find a place. The wind is strong. So we put like a bench or a broken desk. We literally sleep on that. Sleep on a table or something. We find anything. But it's the whole night, super strong, the wind. But that's why we built it really strong. I was never sick, to be honest. It's like we were sleeping out in the open, like when the morning.
Yeah, you're just exposing yourself to it.
The parents always say, you don't sleep the dew in the morning. They always have the dew thing. And then said they're going to be bad to your health, like you get sick. But we had to sleep through the very hot nights. And also, it's very windy. You find you have a corridor thing between the house. You have a corridor that super strong. The benefit of the strong wind is the mosquitoes cannot bite you because
they can't.
Yeah, they cannot stay. That's
like a nice silver lining.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, it's that's why it was super strong. Like never got sick. Like when I went to the city, we find people super like weak. They get sick of this or that. Even when we got there, when I arrived in Canada, I see a lot of people allergic to peanuts. we were allergic to nothing. Even pesticide we can eat. Something with pesticide, nothing.
Eat it.
Nothing will. But nothing will. But I never heard of anybody like in the whole village, the history all time. I never heard anybody like having allergic to. You give anything, we're gonna eat.
It does make me wonder, like an allergy like that. I wonder if it like it's like cult like. I'm not a scientist. I don't understand a lot of this. I probably should. But like a peanut allergy is obviously very common here.
Yeah, it is.
But I don't know if that's...
At the beginning, I thought it was a fake one. But then realized not fake.
It does almost sound like a joke. Not to be diminishing of something that is actually very serious, but it's surprising because like a peanut, it seems so tiny and harmless, and it's the oil, obviously. But I do wonder if that's cultivated here or in certain kinds of environments. Like, how does an allergy like that develop among people in a region but not somewhere else?
Yeah. No, maybe the condition of living standard is high.
Yeah.
So people you getting too used to the clean thing, everything. So for also the allergy to the pollen thing, I would have never thought. I even had the allergy. Some like April, May, I have the allergy to the pollen. I never thought of that. I would have said, what the hell? I would breathe anyway. I would, it's like when I have the mental thing, it's, why do I, but then after like the first year, 2 or 3 years, when I got Canada, no issues. I saw the people, the Chinese immigrants, like it came several years earlier than me. They said they have what the hell are you talking about? I would never have that. But after 10 years, 7 years, I started having that same thing.
Well, I think as we get older too, we develop those kinds of things. Like I noticed,
it's to clean the air. Like we used to have the air. Like we smoke, we breathe through everything. Won't bother us. It's it's kind of the immune system.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
I'm frail and I'm falling apart. It's my useless immune system.
It's like for me, like, what the hell? What are you talking about? We kind of, anything you give us the air, doesn't matter what's inside. We're gonna take the oxygen. We're gonna take the oxygen, get rid of the other things.
Yeah, you just filter it all out.
Yeah. And then like it's kind of silly. When I was 7, 8, I remember like anytime we have uneasy in the stomach, we do that thing like in the army doing this, it will go away. Seriously.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really tough. The boys, we fought each other and we kind of tough. And then we have the little bit headache, and then we bang our head with a little stick or the hand, and then they will go away. Seriously.
That I never tried that one.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's always like it's way tough. Like when we see the kids from the county, the senior high school, the county is level below city. Yeah. It's the rural, it's the countryside as well. So we see them like have this. You guys are so weak comparing to me.
I'm definitely weak. I've had a cold. I got a cold this month for the first time in like 2 years. I was out. Just a basic normal cold, and I was just out. I couldn't handle any of it.
For us,
it's been so long.
Yeah.
So I'm just weak.
Yeah. For that time we grew up, when we had the cold, we're gonna run. Seriously, we're gonna work even harder. Yeah. To sweat it out.
Just get it out. Yeah.
It's maybe the Chinese medicine or something. Even like when you're a kid, you have little fever. They said it's opposite to the Western. You sweat it out, literally cover with the covers, heavy covers, and then you sweat like crazy. And then after that, you're fine. We tried that, and it's very opposite to what they used to. You keep your temperature cool, right? Lower your body temperature. But at that time we did the opposite. But it worked as well. Yeah. But sometimes once in a while you did have big problem. You kind of have the brain damage if you keep the high temperature for long enough.
Yeah, that's no good for you.
Yeah, it's weird. Still, I right now here in if my daughter has that thing, I probably will ask her to take the Tylenol to bring down the temperature, or physically have the cold towel,
like a cold compress or whatever.
Yeah, to bring down. I would not let her to try my method when I.
You don't want to bop her in the head with a stick.
Yeah, it's kind of a risky now.
Yeah.
When you take the risks, it depends like what you have to lose. When that time we did not have much to lose, so we tried everything. We were lucky to survive. We have three siblings. We all did fine.
Good. Yeah, now you're here. Doing a YouTube show in your restaurant that you own.
And but you did not do much of that.
No, I think my mom and my family was very much like work ethic oriented. So my mom was very much like, you got to work hard, you got to put in the time. We were like 12 or 13. She was like, get a job. So I was doing paper routes, and I was a referee for hockey matches in the local arena, stuff like that. But it was never anything as physically demanding as manual labor.
You're the city boy. Kind of city.
I think, in heart for sure. Like I definitely, part of it is I did feel out of place in a farming town. Like it just didn't, none of that felt like, I wasn't attracted to any of it. I didn't connect with any of it. So my job, like jobs that I sought out were like businesses. Like I'm going to go work for the restaurant, or I'm going to go work at the grocery store or whatever. Things like that. While I would be at home writing and playing games.
But what is that like? You have senior high school. After that, did you go to college or
I went to college. So when I graduated high school, I took a year or two off because I didn't know what I wanted to do. When you say high school, the senior 6 years, right? Finish 6 years. Well, yeah, because it's in Canada they call it K-12, so it's like kindergarten to grade 12.
Oh yeah, six plus 6.
Yeah, exactly. But in my town, we had one school, so it was one school, all the students. From kindergarten to grade 12. Classes were like 30 people at most each. So my graduating class was like 40, 50 people.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it was small. Now the town has multiple schools, so they have like a kindergarten to grade 3, and then I think they're doing another one, but the main school that I went to is now 6 to 12.
Yeah. So you finished 12 years education,
yep.
And then
my 12 years took.
That was 18 years old, right? Normally.
Yeah.
So
so I graduated at 18 and had no idea what I wanted to do. The only thing I knew is I didn't want to do more school at that time. Yeah,
so your parents were okay with that?
Yeah, because as long as I had a job, right? It was like, if you're not going to go to college, it's fine, but make sure you're not being useless. Yeah. Like, don't be a drain on society.
Don't smoke too much.
Exactly. And after I graduated, when I was 18, I got the job, whatever job I got, and I stayed at home, and my mom started charging me rent.
Seriously?
Yeah. That's what I mean. My mom, she's like, for real, she's like, you got to work hard, you're going to pay rent, you're not going to get it easy. But it was very supportive. It wasn't like she was trying to teach us hard lessons and to punish us. It was very much like, I want to prepare you for what it's like being in the world, and it did help, because when I did move to San Francisco, like going from Carstairs, Alberta, a town of 2,000 people at the time, to living in San Francisco, California, it's a huge jump. It's a major difference, and I wouldn't have been prepared for it. Thank you so much. If I hadn't grown up being told, don't be unemployed. Make sure that you can keep a job, and that you're always looking for the next thing, and that you're asking for your raises and that kind of stuff.
But is that real? The parents, they really think 18 years old, you're on your own. Like real thing?
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was a combination, right? Because she was supportive in that she let me live at the house. She didn't kick me out. She wasn't like, all right, you're 18, get the fuck out. It was, you're an adult. You're making a choice not to go to college. Yeah. If you're going to live here, you're going to pay rent. And you're going to obviously need a job to do that, so do that.
Did you sign a lease?
No, listen, she had it figured out. As supportive as she was, it was a off-the-books cash transaction. She had it figured out. Love it, all right.
That's really fascinating. Chinese parents always, they take care of you, even when you are 40 years old, 30 years old. But somehow, because I see both sides of the culture, how they deal with the kids, I think sometimes the kids, if parents taking too good care of them, they make them weak as well.
I think that's ultimately what my mom was doing. Is she wanted us to be smart. She wanted us to be practical people who could take care of ourselves and other people. And if she just coddled us, her thinking was, then you will never know how to do anything on your own. You will always rely on somebody else. And ultimately, I think the kind of mentality she had was, be the kind of person somebody else can rely on, rather than being somebody who is relying on somebody.
That's why, the Chinese parents, they always worry. They worry their kids not doing well. They are 18, 19, 20 years old. They worry about not getting married to a right person, not having enough money. Yeah. That's crazy. Even myself, I worry about our business, the income, everything. It's crazy.
Just this constant low-grade anxiety.
That's the thing. I guess. Oh, next time I think I need to kind of I throw away everything. If I start over, I probably don't live like this kind of constant worrying. It's serious. That's a real thing. We worry. That's the problem. I think this. I don't know where it's getting from. Like I worry about everything. And
I think that's normal though. Like I think most people, to some degree, have anxiety because you're always going to be considering like, am I doing good enough? Am I being the kind of person I want to be? I want to be successful. I want to all these things, right? And you kind of worry that if I'm not, then maybe I'm failing or I'm not good enough or I failed. I said failing twice, but you get the idea. And I think that it's natural to worry about those things. Okay. And it's ultimately like your brain is putting up, it's a self-defense mechanism of like, I'm going to protect you. Are you doing good enough? Can you be doing better? And it's not pleasant, but the eggplant is amazing.
It's we deep fry them, we bat them a little bit, and then it's caramelized. Well, I still have the problem with that word.
Caramelized.
Yeah,
it's an odd one.
Yeah, it's the English pronunciation is a big problem for me.
It's caramelized is one of those words I think that it's a lot more enunciated than other words. It's harder to kind of fumble through the word caramelized.
Caramelized, yeah. It takes some time.
A lot of very strong syllables in a row.
Yeah. It's very sweet on this one. Want to drink some sake?
Oh, yeah.
Cheers. Thank you very much. I find sake is very pleasant.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, it's very pleasant.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying sake is very successful. Like here, like very widely accepted. Like Chinese liquor is crazy. It's like 53%, and it's burning like hell. But if you like it, you like it a lot. Like the whiskey thing. It's whiskey has, for me, it's kind of the burning different ways, and it's
it's pretty intense.
Yeah, you can feel like the barley, whatever the wheat being burned. You can feel that kind of flavor inside. The Chinese liquor the same. I guess Chinese liquor and the whiskey, they're same level of they're not tasty. But the whiskey, you have the benefit, you can mix with other things.
Yeah.
But Chinese liquor, you can never mix. You can never mix.
So you just get the burn.
Yeah. Always straight.
Have you been to Japan? Have you had like
Japanese
sake in Japan?
Yeah, it's I think that's my to-do list on my high on the list. Japan and Taiwan, I need to go.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When I grew up so poor, so literally it's point to point. So my senior high school is in the county, still the local countryside. So the university, Tianjin University, that's the only city, big city. The first big city, real city, like 4 years in the Tianjin.
Yeah.
And then after that, I got my really first nice job is in Huawei. So it's a big corporation at that time. So I was super lucky to get the really nice job. I stayed 4 years in Shenzhen, 5 years in Shenzhen, another big city. After that, nowhere. So far, I'm 42 years old. I have never traveled to any Chinese cities. I had no chance. So very strict. Village, town, county, and then a big city, and another city, then Canada. No other traveling experience in China.
That's definitely the thing I miss most in the pandemic is traveling, or just the ability to travel, even if it's just.
Actually, for your job, you can travel a lot as well because as long as you bring your laptop, it's fine.
Yeah. And my.
You're lucky.
Yeah, I very much am.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing too, is because I would do a lot of travel for work when we would write our scripts for the game, and then we would go film the scenes with the actors. I would still have to do my job because I don't want to fall behind just because I'm traveling for this other work thing. So it's nice. Like I'd have my laptop and I'd be on set. We'd be filming. And we'd be giving feedback on scenes and talking to the actors, and then okay, I'm going to do this task, which is nice. Lets me keep a good tempo.
Yeah, for me it's really interesting. I never been to Great Wall, even it was so close.
Yeah.
To actually the Tianjin Beijing, I only had one time. Like I spent 2 days travel from Tianjin to Beijing. It's literally between Montreal and Ottawa. The distance, Montreal and Ottawa.
Is it accessible?
Very accessible.
Very easily, like train or yeah.
Even that time, around 2000, year 2000, the train was okay already. Was not bad. Right now it's all like super high speed. That time, like I guess a weekend, I went there to went to Tiananmen Square to see the flag raising thing. Yeah. There's a ceremony, but I never went to the Great Wall. I saved a lot of this thing for later. That's the probably when I'm old, I'm probably go back to China to visit different cities. There's a lot of attractions, tourist attractions, like across China. A lot of them. Even the Xi'an, they have terracotta warriors, and never been there.
I'd love to see those.
Yeah. It would be another is like Mountain Tai is the highest mountain in China. So everybody wants to visit climb the Mountain Tai. There's a Tai. Tai is the, and also on the top of that the mountain along the trail, almost to the top, you have the script, the carving, from the poets. Really? Poets from old time, like 1,000 years ago. So they kind of carved their poems on huge stones. So this you can see them today.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's
that's wild. Do you think that poet just thought, did he think that he was up there making history, making a monument for people to see in 1,000 years, or was he just up there like vandalizing a stone? Like,
no,
actually,
I guess they felt pretty good about themselves because all the poets. That time they were like noble people. They had the financial freedom. We call financial freedom that time because they either grew up very rich or relatively well off, and then also some people sponsoring them. Seriously, there were some people sponsored.
For the arts.
They sponsor them so they can spend a lot of time traveling around all these attractions, mountains. That in Chinese culture they like mountains. As long as they say mountains, they have the big stone. They're gonna carve something, they leave their name there, so they're pretty romantic. There's one famous, most famous, like poet called Li Bai. He lived in dynasty Tang dynasty about 12,000 years ago, I believe. That dynasty, the Tang dynasty, is the best time in Chinese culture. It's maybe the strongest in the world, and also the most richest time. Culturally, in China, the whole world, the Tang is famous for poems. Like at that time, like you have maybe hundreds of famous poets from that time. They produce a lot of beautifully done like poems. So this Li Bai is the most famous one. So he's really romantic. He was really, how to say that, it's kind of grand. So he felt anything was in his control. He was kind of totally looked on everything. So the poem he made was kind of, you see the huge picture, and he felt pretty above the world, his feeling. But the same talented is called Du Fu. Another one was same level of talent. So they were the top two, the Tang dynasty.
They were the guys.
The Du Fu, this guy is kind of living a relatively moderate lifestyle. So he was the
financial freedom.
Yeah, he did not. He was sponsored by low-ranking kind of nobles that time. So he was struggling all the time. But he wrote beautifully poems, beautifully, and a lot of them is expressing the hard life of the ordinary people. So describing
voice of the people, kind of
voice of the people. I guess his last highest ranking official, he was, we call a chief of the county. He was the highest ranking for himself. He was the chief of the county level, and he died from starvation, something. They said he died like when he was hungry for a lot of days, and then once he at last he met a rich family or noble family. They fed him a lot of meat or something. He kind of had too much for once. After a long time, he died from that. Yeah. But Dufu, the talent level, even a lot of people, they say like Dufu is better than talent level, better than Li Bai. But Li Bai always had the best life ever. He was in the royal court.
Yeah, he was living large.
And also, he had a story with the emperors of Tang, of the emperor that time, because when you are emperor, you have a lot of women in the royal court, like a lot of wives, and one of them very beautiful, very famous. So he had even had a lot of meetings with this lady, and he wrote a lot of amazing. Li Bai is always admired because his kind of literature and his kind of life he left, and he always drunk.
Of course.
Yeah, always drunk. And the Dufu is the other one, but people really like for us, students, always like Dufu.
You know your history.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time, like in the high school, the junior high school, senior high school, 6 years. You have to pass the test. You have to read a lot of these ancient literatures, and a lot of them. The poems, the Tang Dynasty is famous for poems, and then the Song Dynasty right after. It's a lot for the long format of the literature. So they are not even. Like the poems, you have to normally 4 lines. Every line either 5 characters or 7 characters. Very strict.
Yeah.
They have a style, very very strict. But Song Dynasty right after Tang Dynasty, they can. This line 5 characters. Next line maybe 10. Next line maybe 3. That's that's a freestyle thing.
Yeah.
But the song, I give you the freedom of maybe you have 10 lines or 12 lines, or not limited to 4 lines anymore.
Yeah.
So the Song Dynasty, that's another format called 词. Poem is 诗. The 词 is another format. It's even more richer.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It's richer. So. Okay, let's try pork.
Yeah. Some beans too. Some vegetables.
So the Song Dynasty produced a lot of people. They're good at this kind of long format, like paragraph.
Yeah.
Thing. But it's so beautiful. The problem is, as a student, you have to remember them.
Yeah, that's always the trouble.
A lot of them, hundreds of them, and you have to remember. Once in a while, in the exam, the exam will be, please write down this poem from which poet. And the Tang poet is easy.
So you remember the verses and the poet.
Exactly.
So you can connect them.
Yeah, and the Tang Dynasty is easy because only all 4 lines and a certain amount of characters. But the song, the style changes so long, and you have to write all of them.
Yep.
That's it's crazy.
That's so much. I think in high school, I was disappointed in my high school after I left because something I realized is that I didn't. Our education was not great. We got very simple, very basic, very Canadian-focused history. Yeah. My social studies teacher was amazing. He branched us out into, he would teach us about different cultures because he would travel a lot. So he would tell us about his trip to Malaysia. He did a whole day talking about Iran because he was in Iran. World War II and all the big beats of history. We had that, but besides that, we had no exposure to other cultures at all.
Seriously?
Yeah, there was nothing.
So even in your history book,
extremely white-centric, extremely Eurocentric.
Seriously? So, but World War I, World War II, yes, right?
Yeah, that was the most where we were exposed to kind of the actions and events of other countries. Mm-hmm. And that one, because it's so notable in history and affected so many different kinds
exactly.
of people, we would hear
you
about,
have to. Yeah, you have to. World War I, World War
That's where we were exposed to, okay, here's what happened in World War II. Germany invades Poland, and then Pearl Harbor happens, and then the invention of the nuclear bomb. All good stuff to know. But that was really it. Besides that, it was a lot of Canadian history, a little bit of American, but honestly, not even that much. We didn't learn a lot, is what I learned after I graduated.
That's interesting.
Because I started learning more about the world as I kind of went into it. Because it's so insular, right? When you're in a small farming town in Canada and your entire life is being educated about Eurocentric and Canadian-centric histories, you don't have enough exposure to other kinds of cultures and people. So going into the world, going to San Francisco, living there was one thing, but also my job at the time required me to travel a lot. So I got to go to places that I didn't know a lot about and see different cultures, and it was like jumping into cold water, right? Because it's like I don't know anything, I don't know how to I don't know the tempo here, I don't know how to fit in, but I love that. I love figuring out other kinds of cultures from like a basic level, and then digging into the food, and then digging into the history and the mythologies and the stories that they all have. It's amazing.
But what countries have you ever traveled to? Asian countries?
So I've been to Japan several times.
Seriously?
Yeah.
How's Japan? Everybody says
it's my favorite. It's my favorite place on the planet.
That's the thing. Everybody says that.
Yeah, you could live in Tokyo 100 years and never sleep, and you would still never see it all. There's just so much.
You like the nightlife?
Not so much anymore. I think going in my 20s, I was like, yes, Tokyo is the best because it's loud, and it's bright, and at night, like going to somewhere like Shinjuku, where it's all clubs and it's neon signs, and restaurants, and shiny ads, and all this stuff. I was like, this is amazing, right? It's so different than here, which is just like a drunken bar fight in the middle of the road.
Yeah, it'll be boring.
Totally.
But how do you find the language issues? You don't speak Japanese, right?
No.
But you're doing the game business, a lot of people they learn Japanese in the game because Japan is so big on the games.
Yeah, absolutely. There are people who learn Japanese.
You want to learn?
Specifically to, I would love to. I'm not confident in my ability to learn a language as a 33-year-old person. But whenever I travel to places I've been to Germany and Japan and France. Anytime I would go to these places, I would at least put in a little bit of effort to learn basics, right? Like I'd listen to books on tape, I'd do a little bit of studying just to be not quite conversational, but enough that I could come to a restaurant and order food.
Yeah, find somewhere.
Yeah, I might not be able to look at a menu, but I can at least ask basic questions or where's the restroom? How do I find my hotel? Those kinds of things. Just things that because I don't love going to countries and just hello, I'm speaking English and I need you to get on my level. Like that's not good. You got to put in some effort. And what I found in Japan is most people are willing to meet you far more than halfway. A lot of them speak English. A lot of Japanese people speak English, and they're very apologetic about their language when they speak to you in English. It's like, no, you're doing great. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not participating in this at all the right way. Like, I'm very grateful for you for being kind to me. Very accommodating about language in Japan, which is nice. I would try to learn expressions and basic questions and phrases and things like that so I could at least engage and navigate and say excuse me, and I could greet people at hotels and things like that, right? Japan is the only Asian country I think I've been to. Visited Germany very briefly a couple times, for a couple days. I spent some time in France. A lot of time in the States. I've been all over the United States for work.
United States, kind of like the same country. A lot of times, the English people, the culture. But in Japan, how long? Several times be traveling there?
Yeah, so I went the first time, and I would always go out for the Tokyo Game Show, which is basically all the Japanese companies are hosting a huge event just outside Tokyo at this big convention center where they have booths and props and lights and sounds and demos and videos and announcements and all this crazy stuff. And that's where you go to get all of the latest in Japanese games. So I would go out for that event and spend some time in Tokyo. Over time, what I've come to realize is as much as I love Tokyo, and I will do everything I can to visit as many times as I can, I fell in love with Kyoto last time I went because
Kyoto is the capital. Oh, not capital. Is the Jingdu. Kyoto is the climate agreement. Kyoto is that?
I don't know.
In Chinese, it's probably the previous capital, I guess. That's why the Kyoto in Chinese we call Jingdu is like capital. Literally means capital.
Yeah, that might be true.
Yeah, Kyoto. Yeah,
but Kyoto is so much
smaller,
quieter,
like Ottawa.
Slower pace.
It's Ottawa, right? So very nice and quiet.
Yeah, but Kyoto it's old, and they embrace how old it is. Like Tokyo is very modern, and there's elements of history everywhere, right? There's shrines and ancient castles and all sorts of stuff.
That's the way they keep their tradition, keep the old things. Really.
But I visited. I wish I remember the name, but I visited this feudal castle in Kyoto. And they had some terracotta warriors that they had stolen. I think. And then like on the floorboards for the castle, they had, I wish I remember the names, but it was like a bird song kind of sound to the floorboards. When you walk on it, it would creak. And they specifically made it that way so that the tour guide was telling all this as we were walking around, and floors are creaking. The way they explained it is to keep the shogun protected. They would have these floorboards so that nobody could.
Shogun is, I read that somewhere. Shogun means, it means that like before they reformed shogun, I guess. It could be that the two rivalries for the form of the government. I guess shogun is one of the.
Yeah, it was like a leadership position.
Yeah.
So to keep him safe from potential assassins, they had these floorboards that if you walked on them with any pressure at all, they creaked and they sang.
To have the warning.
To keep you protected, yeah. So if you ever, you were sleeping in the castle and you heard that creak, you knew something was up.
Yeah, something up. Yeah. It's amazing. So you visited there several times.
Yeah, I've been 4 times, 5 times. 4 times, but I think one of the times I extended the trip to go somewhere else.
I guess the company paid you for that as well, right? Business trips?
Well, that was the nice thing, and I'm going to have a bite, and then I'll get into it. But
that's amazing.
The thing about my job in my 20s, sorry. I moved to San Francisco in 2012, and I work for this company that travels all over the world to cover entertainment.
That's the best job I ever.
The best. I could literally not have gotten luckier, had a better experience in my 20s, because home base was San Francisco, which is great. It's a wonderful city, amazing food, lots of interesting melting pot of cultures. And then for my first couple of years there, all I did was travel. Germany, Japan, all over the place.
And they pay you. They pay the bills.
Yeah, and the nice thing was, the system I had worked out was, obviously they're paying for the flights, but if I told them, hey, I'm going to stay an extra week and do vacation in Tokyo, I just had to pay for my hotel for that 7 extra days, and the flight was still taken care of.
Makes sense, yeah.
So it was the most amazing way to take advantage of my job and get some meaningful life experiences and expose myself to interesting cultures and countries that I had never been to.
That's the same thing. I have my first company, only company I work in China. The first job, starting 2002, because I graduated 2001. So they sent me to Egypt on the business trips.
Whoa!
And that's why I was so lucky as well.
How was Egypt? Tell me everything about Egypt. Because I'd love to visit Africa. There's so many amazing African countries I'd love to see.
It's amazing. So that time they sent me to different business trips to do some projects. So Egypt, I stayed there 6 months. That's luxury. Yeah, Cairo.
Oh, you were saying earlier that you hadn't really seen, but you're
not in China, but outside. So the second year, so my English was really broken. I had really broken, but somehow they said I was doing we call it technical support, overseas technical support. Basically, what we did is they have a project, so we go there to implement the project. So even my English was very, very bad, but somehow maybe we have a small team, so they sent some guys to Egypt, some guys to other countries. So I was constantly on the travel, on the business trips. So the first was 2002. Only when I was 23, I was in charge of the project to do the broadband. We call it like the modem. Even today, the Bell has the same over the telephone line. So we call it broadband. The broadband. But Egypt was like when you program like one family, right? One line. If you have telephone line, we send you a modem, right? In the central office, we have another modem. So this modem working with the modernization and then demodernization thing. So basically, the training, we call the training on the line, is a 60K the bandwidth. The granular is 32 or 64K. 64K the minimum bandwidth broadband. But somehow the Egypt, like in China that time, 2002, in Shenzhen, we always get 2 meg. 2 meg for or 1 meg or 512K for the bandwidth. Like everybody has the broadband. But somehow when we get there, they told us, okay, for the email only, for this family, this line, could you just restrict the speed to 16K? 16K. So literally we cannot.
Slower than dial-up.
Yeah. So dial-up was like 30K or 20. It depends on the quality of the line. So that time I thought like China was really way ahead of like, because for us literally the technically we cannot split up like 64K to 16K. We can do that. We call training on the line. 32K is the minimum. So the granular, the degree is 32K. So that time it's like kind of this the customer like I guess the biggest telecom company in Egypt. They say like they don't need that much. They need only like emails. 16K is enough. But it's broadband.
It's amazing they brought you out there for that. Yeah. Like, don't do that. Yeah. Do less.
I have a lot of like I stayed there. It's amazing. I see that was starting even in China. The broadband was right now. The internet speed is crazy in China. It's the cell phone. There's never limit on the data, cellular data. Long time ago, 10 years ago, there was no limit. The China is like the volume is like a wholesale. The volume is too many mobile phones, so they don't care about like what data usage you have. So it's always very, very cheap, very high speed. But 2002, when I visited Egypt, I realized like, geez, here is the infrastructure on the telecom was so poor. And I stayed there several months. Like we literally using the high tech to try to kind of low tech. Like a broadband it's like dial-up. If you use dial-up, you get 30K. But then they ask for 32, and then you get the problem like the modem on the computer is doing the dial-up modem, right? You don't need to have a separate modem to installed. You get nothing out of it.
So bizarre. Yeah. What a strange approach.
Yeah, but maybe they want to embrace the new technology. It's that is called ASDSM. AS is what is that called? Like that terminology is for the kind of broadband over the telephone line.
Yeah.
But even now, even Bell, right now Bell maybe have the big problem with the Videotron because the cable, it's the copper wire is much thicker, so it's much stabler. Much stabler. So the bandwidth, everything. That's why the Videotron have huge advantage to Bell, because we call twist lines, the telephone lines. By definition, by all kinds of objective means, it's not compatible. Not competitive to the cable wire.
It's interesting that it's entirely the cable.
Yeah, the cable. If you have the cable, it's always stable. It's just technically not comparable to the cable because it's so thick. The copper thing in the core is thick, and then when you do the modem thing, it's much stabler, and then can produce much higher speed.
I feel good about using Videotron instead of Bell now.
Yeah.
I don't care for that Bell company.
Yeah, the telephone line is easy access. It's everybody. Some houses you don't have the cable, but you have telephone line. So it's kind of based on that infrastructure. So Bell had the very beginning the advantage, but when like in Montreal, the city, like everybody has a cable connection to your house or units, and the advantage lost right away. So that's the first job I had was amazing.
Egypt, 6 months.
6 months. I went to the Giza pyramids 4 or 5 times already. I went to
couldn't stay away.
In the middle, like the stairs. You go maybe 200. I counted maybe between 200 to 300 steps. You go to the room for the coffins, the real coffin,
the tombs.
Yeah, the tomb. Because the first time when you are new, we had always had an office there, so the colleague will bring you there. Your first time here, so let's go to the pyramid. And the next time I'm the old one, so
you're bringing people to the pyramids.
Exactly.
Now?
So I went several times.
That's good. Yeah. That's my favorite thing about traveling to, and that's what I do in Japan. Whenever I go to Japan too, is every time I've been to Japan, it's been with somebody different.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the first time I went, it was obviously I was totally fish out of water, had no idea what I was doing, but I had a couple of people who I was with who had been before. So they were the guides. They introduced us to these great food places and this awesome landmark.
Are they expensive?
Attraction.
The real Japanese food is
not really, to be honest. Like you can we would pop into a random ramen shop or a sushi shop, right? We'd just be walking on the road. We'd look for like a hole in the wall place, small. Go in there. A lot of the time they have the like machines, so you can just order at the front and you give them a ticket, and then they just make the food and bring it to you. Rather than because it helps with the language barrier too, right? If you just walk into a ramen shop and you look at a bunch of pictures
like
of ramen,
McDonald's machine.
Yeah, exactly. And you just I want that ramen and that drink, and you give them the ticket and they bring it to you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but every time I've been to Japan after that, it was like, okay, these were the 3 things that I really liked. Here were the 3 things I found on my own. I'll introduce somebody new to all of those things. So every time I go, it's like the trips end up being very similar because I go to my favorite spots, but they're all so good.
Yeah, that's why when I do well with this restaurant, or I can leave for several days, I probably bring my daughter to the Japan. That's my first. Like I think my daughter is 8. Like when we were in the car and we listen to like 95.9, the Virgin Radio, they always play songs like sometimes once in a while you see that the sushi from Japan kick like Jackie Chan or something. There's that song like my daughter like that song like Sushi Japan. Every time we heard that song on the radio, like my daughter will say, "Let's go to Japan." Yeah, let's go to Japan. Yeah, that's the thing. I have to. For me, it would be much easier because a lot of the place name and will be in Chinese character anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like ancient Chinese. Is the meaning will be a little bit off, but will not be off too much. So literally, you can read the Chinese character. We know what exactly it's like.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very close. It's like ancient Chinese. So I guess that they kind of split from that time. So they had the Chinese character from old time China.
Yeah.
And then they split up. So like we develop our way, they have the different path. So the same character, they may have
same origin.
Yeah. But they may have little slight different meaning, but almost very close. You can guess 90% right. Every time when we watch the Japanese shows, movies, we know the places. Oh, this is the police station. So this is something right away. The character, the same.
Yeah.
So we don't have to, but the pronunciation will be totally off. You have to. You have to. It's amazing. And also for this, like the eat with the owner, and probably I spoke with the Japanese the customer. Probably she will be on the show as well. That would be amazing. I really like Korean, South Korea, and Japanese. If some of them they come to the show, it's amazing. Especially like for South Korea, Japanese and Chinese, they share the same kind of root. The culturally, it's all coming from Confucius culture. So even the collective thinking, the collective thinking is very, very different from the West, because the people, they always think what do we do to benefit the whole group? The people, they have discipline. Even the parents, I guess they bring up the kids, they're gonna teach them somehow. That's kind of think about the goodness of a group.
Well, that's the striking thing about coming back to North America after going somewhere like Japan, is you spend all this time around a society that is extremely efficient, extremely disciplined, right? Like if your train is late, they hand you a slip so that you can give it to your boss to tell them that it's the train line, taking responsibility for it. It's our fault, not your worker. Everybody's very courteous. Everybody understands the rules of, stand to the right, to the left, pass people. If you're walking faster, get out of the way if you're walking slowly. All sorts of just little tiny things like that. Everything runs on time. Everything is clean. People respect each other. People respect each other's distance. If somebody's sick, they wear a mask on the train. Those kinds of things that don't exist here at all in any capacity.
Even Japan, when they are too old or they are trouble, they want to commit suicide, they go to a specific place. They said, even I commit suicide, I don't want to disturb people. I don't bring trouble to other people. That's amazing. So, there's I read somewhere, there's a little forest, the woods. A lot of people, they go inside to commit suicide because they don't want to bother. They don't want to bother other people, create extra trouble for other people. If you die in the street, you kind of disturb other people. So that's the mentality of the collective thinking.
I definitely resonate like that. That clicks with me a little bit. Like not the going to the woods to die part so much, but I've thought when I get really existential and think about my own mortality, I think if if I'm healthy, if I know I'm sick, if I know I don't have a lot of time, I think what I'd like to do is just go into the world, and then wherever I stop, I stop.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it's that mentality of like, oh, I don't want to be a bother with me, which is, that's a heavy subject to think that you're a problem. But yeah,
it's Japan is really amazing. The Chinese culture right now, to be honest, it's a little bit different. But the old Chinese is very close to Japanese, very close. But fortunately, they kept the whole tradition. The respect to the generations seniors. It's the same thing. Like in the old Chinese, people bow, especially the people they educated. All the people like the poets, they were really well off. So they in the noble family. So they really had that tradition to kind of respect each other, to appreciate each other's intellectual level. So when we read the ancient Chinese literatures, you see they always bow to each other. They always say nice things about. They keep the respect, the distance, everything. It's like the Japanese. They kept this amazing, like the Japanese character as well. It's called Jun. Like they always call each other Jun to respect you. It's like that character is from Chinese character. Same Japanese use the same. They just call you something to add one character to mean like you are noble. You are noble something. It's really amazing. You see the tradition there. They kept everything. The tradition is the Confucius, like maybe 1,000 years ago. But it's hierarchy, that's for sure. Because in the Confucius is a hierarchy. If you study the Confucius is kind of how to rule people. It's from top down. They rule people. They teach you to obey rules, to respect your seniors. Even in the Confucius, the writing, it's like if the emperor asks you, the senior officials, the ministers, to die, you have to die. Seriously,
it's intense.
Yeah, it's very intense. It's the philosophy, the whole theory to help the emperor to the top people to rule the common people. And also, there's another thing: is the woman's rights. It's like if like a woman wife have to listen 100% to the husband. If the husband dies, the woman has to listen to the oldest son. That's in the Confucius. It's
very odd.
That's how they kept the society stable. It's kind of
with the patriarch.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of the way of managing the society. That's why it's so popular for 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years. Like it's 221 BC. That's the Emperor Qing united the whole China. That's the first time ever. Before was the states. It's the warring states.
But thousands of years.
But so 221 years before Christmas, before Christ, the BC. That year, the Emperor Qing united the whole China. So he used the whole philosophy from that time, always united, because they having this theory, literally a theory how to manage a country, to be implemented throughout all these dynasties. This dynasty Tang, all this Song, and all this dynasty, they kind of, the difference between dynasties is like who's ruling, who family, because every dynasty has a family name. It's always passed to the sons. So it's like Tang is Li family, Tang dynasty, Song is Zhao family. So they always have this. It depends on how many. After generations, some emperors, they're gonna really corrupt it, or they're really not competent.
No doubt.
So the ministers, they have problem with ministers or the other rivalries. So they rivals. So they kind of rise up. So they kind of change the family from Li to Zhao. Yuan is Mongolia. After Zhao, Song dynasty is the Yuan. We call Yuan dynasty. That's Mongolia. The Kubilai. Kubilai is the grandson of Genghis Khan. So they kind of conquered the whole China. Then they adopted the Chinese system. They changed the name to Yuan dynasty, but they stayed only less than 100 years because they are so brutal.
Oh, it's completely different than society was used to.
Yeah, exactly. They put the Chinese people as a second-class citizen. So the intellectuals, so they kind of think, oh, it's a foreign invaders. So kind of they rise up. They only, I guess, if look up the history, probably the Mongolia ruling in China only less than 100 years, because they were kind of, they put the Mongolians, the noble people, way above the Chinese nobles, the regular Han nobles, because it's in the old time always nobles ruling, right?
Yeah, of course.
Level, and but like the Yuan dynasty after that will be Ming dynasty. So Ming will be the family name Zhu. So it's all like the revolutions. In China, the dynasty, the revolutions is different families.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
so different than here.
Yeah, but they
Completely.
use the same philosophy to rule. Is the Confucius? The Confucius is even today is into people's mind.
It's amazing that it's endured that long.
Yeah,
that's thousands of years.
Yeah, that's the successful of this Confucius. Confucius is, if you look at today, if you look at those kind of writings in the words in the Confucius theory, they have a book. It will be a lot of time, a lot of trouble, lot of trouble. You will see, totally wrong.
Yeah.
The woman's rights is nothing. They said there's one very famous quote is like the two people you don't deal with, two kinds of people you don't deal with, is woman and the bad people.
That's the bad people.
Yeah, bad people. We call the 小人.
Yeah.
Bad people. The people give you trouble. They say things behind you, backstab you.
Yep.
And the woman and the bad people.
Amazing that just women are just in that category.
Yeah, exactly.
Women and bad people are
exactly.
the same.
Exactly. It's from Confucius.
Yeah.
Literally his writing. He was the philosopher at that time.
He's a wise philosopher.
Yeah. But that time...
could have used a little bit of
exactly.
cultural calibration.
Confucius himself, Kongzi, he was about 2,500 years ago. But when he had the book, when he had the writing, he was admired by a lot of his disciples, right? Disciples. So he had a lot of followers as well. But then, most importantly, his thinking, his ideas was adopted by the rulers, by the emperors, or after Emperor Qing.
Yeah, that's not good. Because you don't want like a misogynistic, sexist worldview. Like women are equal to bad people to be at the highest levels of authority.
Yeah, but that theory helped all these emperors to rule the whole country.
Yeah. Everything about it is so that they can keep control.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
Everybody else has fewer rights.
Yeah. But even that's why I guess the most beautiful thing Japan did like 200 years ago. So they it was the same system they inherited, same theory. But then about 200 years ago or something, when the British Americans or the French people, they used their navy to reach the shore of Japan, they chose to open up, to adopt the idea of the Western idea. That's why Japan was a Western country. So they opened up, say, the ruling class at that time, they were thinking, the word you mentioned before was, what is that called?
I don't remember.
Yeah, that word.
Sorry.
It's a rivalry thinking of how to govern the government. There was a war between them. There was a lot of movies about that time. So there was like one school of thinking, another school of thinking. So they fought each other. Maybe 1,000 people, 10,000 people died from that war. But after that, they kind of, they said, let's go this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And probably history proved them that could be the better way, right? It's crazy.
You really know your history. I love that. This is nice. I just came for lunch and to talk, and I'm getting a nice history lesson today.
I could be wrong. I'm not responsible
that's
to
fine. Yeah, that's me too. I'll tell you. This is what I think is true.
We need to go to Wikipedia for that.
Yeah, exactly. We need a fact checker behind the camera or something.
It's fascinating. And I last month I was watching a movie from Netflix about that period of war in Japan. A lot of wars in Japan, they the two sides, they only involve like 10,000 people, 10,000 soldiers.
Yeah.
That's kind of a major battle for them.
Yeah.
But in China, always 500,000. That's already very decisive battle in Japan. Like maybe 10,000 or 5,000 soldiers each side. That's decisive for the direction of the country. It's amazing.
That's wild.
It's
the scale of it is so daunting.
This scale,
like, that's a city.
Yeah.
500,000 people is a city.
And also but the beautiful thing is like sometimes they kept the collective thinking. They find the good balance. It's even today, I guess the collective thinking is still very deep in their mind. So that's why I guess a lot of time they can produce things really amazing, and they can more responsible society. If they set out the goal to say, okay, people just behave more responsibility.
We could use a little more of that here, I think.
Exactly. but at the same time, they don't have the people, the crazy idea of expression. You know, you have kind of wacky people, but some people, the wacky people, they get admired. They create a phenomenon.
Yeah.
I guess but maybe it may not be true in like my reading about maybe 10 years ago. Even Japanese people, they admire the freedom in the United States because they were trained when they're very young to be respectful. You know, they did not have that fire. You know, they say these crazy people. I kind of they will say, oh, we admire those kind of crazy people. You know, we just don't produce enough crazy people.
We need more crazy people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It could be true as well for them. Say like,
thanks, just a little. Yeah,
perfect. We need to finish the whole bottle.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah, it's.
But we have some work to do.
Well, let's eat a little bit.
Yeah. It's nice to take breaks too. I get a little full, digest a little, come back.
Is that all you can eat a buffet?
Yeah, seriously. So much food for 2 people. This is what we do though, is we order like this. We just order a lot, and then any leftovers last us several days.
For 2 people, probably will be 2 plates.
Yeah, like
or 3.
We usually do this and then our rice. That's it. Sometimes we'll get like a vegetable on the side, and then the next morning, cook it up, do it again for lunch.
Our restaurant, to be honest, is not good for 1 people. If only 1 people coming to order, I don't.
No, please leave.
Yeah.
No, this is not for you.
I think they were, because like you don't want to order 2 plates, right? Only 1, and then you don't have variety, and then
That's true.
And it's sometimes I feel bad if 1 people coming to eat, and then after the bill you see, okay, you spent this much money, but you only have the chance to eat only 1 plate, and it may not be your favorite. And if you have 2 people coming together, you actually have 2 or 3 dishes, and you can share.
Yeah, this is definitely the way to go. Just a bunch of different stuff. Spin it around. It's perfect.
It's Chinese. I guess Chinese cuisine is more for sharing. It's everybody. In the old times, like even my generation, when we grew up, it's annoying. It's like they always pick for you. Yeah. It's crazy. It's even in the countryside today, probably they still do that. And right now, we all have the serving spoon or serving chopsticks. But when you want to show people you are very nice to them, you always pick, like, especially the old generation. My parents' generation, they always pick up for you, and then
like, no, but I want it.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of even today. If I go back to my village, like every time I go back, it's a big thing. It's a big thing because like all the relatives, my real aunt, not aunties, not aunties from the village, but the real aunt is my father's sister. My father has 2 sisters. That's like a huge thing. Like in China, if your father's sisters, we call aunt, like gu, 小姑, 大姑. This is amazing. They like treat you like their own kid, because thinking from their perspective, it's like you are my brother's kid. Yeah, it's like their own because they're motherhood, right? It's a motherhood. You are sisters of the father, so like it's my own. So they will treat us like crazy, really nice. It's every time I visit their homes, their houses. It's amazing. We feel like a royal. Yeah,
it's like your house now.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. Every time I go back to the village, and I have 2 aunts, and they are amazing. So we're spoiled. Even at the very poor condition, we're kind of spoiled. They have 1 apple, they give you the whole apple. You know. Is
that true now? Like, if you go home now as an adult man, is it the same way?
Yeah, still.
Yeah, that's awesome.
In their mind, I'm 42, they are 60 something. They still think you're
still
a kid.
the young kid.
Yeah, exactly. So it's crazy.
I'm now getting to the point in my life where I'm officially starting to feel old. Not just like, oh, I'm sore all the time or whatever, but just the way that I think about time used to be, in your 20s, you're like, oh,
yeah, a lot of time.
Back when I was in high school. It's like 4 years ago or whatever, right? But now it's like, my favorite movies came out 20, 30 years ago. And that's insane to me. And now I was talking to my sister on the phone, and she had mentioned her daughter, my niece. She's buying a car, and she said, in 4 years I'll give it to her. And I was like, you're going to give your car to your child? And I was like, oh my God, she's 12
already,
years old.
12 already.
It's 12, yeah. And it's that moment of, oh, I'm now old enough for another human being to have grown up. It's like, oh no. But that's an interesting part of your life now, is like, I'm now, like when I go home, I just spoil those kids, like they're mine to an extent, because I get to have all the fun with them. Here's the presents and the candy, and you feel good, and we're having a great time. And then you go home, and I don't have to deal with you going to bed. I don't have to deal with you sugar crashing or being an annoying nightmare. Having a good time. Making my sister's problem.
That's why sometimes we say, like, everybody likes dogs like a pet. Yeah. And as long as we don't own the dogs, then we pet your dog.
Yeah, I'll pet the dog, but I don't want to take it for a walk. I don't want to clean it.
Exactly.
I'm not going to do the litter box.
It's amazing.
Definitely.
But good thing is about it's like the Chinese culture is the thing. Even they are super nice to you, the seniors, but there's some conditions, something tied to it. So they always,
like, you owe them a favor or something.
No, they always want to, kind of have a saying in your own stuff. If you are like you in China, you will be big trouble when you're this age. You are not married.
Yeah,
you're not having kids. Your old relatives always, even not your parents, they kind of feel they are entitled to give you advices. Even my aunt, if I last trip I did not have my kid, my two aunts, they will say, no, why don't you have a kid?
Bring a kid next time. Don't come back without one.
Exactly. So they kind of, it's you will feel the pressure. If like the whole society, or like, because they are too nice to you, so sometimes they feel they are part of your circle. They're part of your parents. Their parents as well. So they kind of feel they're really entitled to give you the life advices.
Yeah.
They sometimes, like, all this, even we call remote relatives. The crazy case is a lot of even remote relatives, they give you, like, they have the authority to give you, when do you get married? Well, you don't have a girlfriend, this 27 years old, or when gonna have you get married? And do they have money like others? The girl you are dating right now, you are saying, like, do they have money, or do they have a stable job? Does she, her parents good? Everything.
Yeah.
That's the pressure.
Yeah.
And so the it's very huge difference. But here, like in the West, like you enjoy the freedom.
Yeah.
But there, the parents, maybe they pay you for the front payment, like upfront payment, the mortgage down payment.
Wow.
A lot of them.
Wow.
So
that doesn't happen here.
Exactly. So
that's unheard of.
So they're super nice to you. They feel like the continuation is flowing from generation to generation. They give up everything for you.
Yeah.
But the for exchange, they want to have a lot of voting rights.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a martyr complex almost. Like, I gave up everything for me.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
Now you owe me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, I'm gonna have my say.
Yeah. I need to say, like, what time you get married, and like who's marrying to you, and it's amazing, and and the problem is, like, as a boy, the guy is fine.
Sure.
It's a little bit leniency, little bit time, but for the woman, it's, if you're not getting married 26, nobody gonna marry you.
Yeah.
And every moment, every second
that really messes up with your head too.
Yeah, exactly. Every moment passing, you are losing chances. your value is going down like crazy.
I can't even imagine making major life choices like that at 26. Like, I think my parents were married at like 23, 25. I think they were 23, 25. Around the time I was born, they got married, early 20s. I'm like, I'm 33 now. I'm like, I'm still not like, and I'm like, I have a job. I have a career now. I've been doing this job for a long time, and I've lived in cities, and I have a wonderful partner. And I'm still to the point where I'm like, I don't think like I could do this. I think I would fail catastrophically at having a child.
It's true because I'm immigrant here.
Yeah,
I see both sides. That's the thing. Constantly in my head, when you see friends like this. Or other friends, it's constantly in your head. That's why I cannot focus on my French learning. Every day, it's like when you see it, it's right in your face.
Yeah.
And that's the dilemma. You kind of, it's very tough. Like when I see the development in China, the economy is growing up really well. And here, everything like stagnant. And when you have one bridge and the RAM project takes 4 years, never heard of in China. This whole thing, like 50 kilometers all across Montreal, taking 4 years. That's a year, 1 year, or like
it's crazy.
6 months will be done in China.
Yeah.
I see.
That's what I mean about efficiency, though. Like I come back to North America from a foreign country that's very efficient and very good, and it's like, wait, hang on, why are these roads in Montreal inside out for the 3rd straight year? Hello?
Yeah, it's crazy. So the problem is like, when I see both sides of things, you always want to get good things from both sides. Oh, they're good at this, and this side, oh, they're really nice people. And then you want to see, okay, can I get both? But reality is you can't. And you keep struggling in your head. Like one day I think, oh, I miss chance over there. One day I think, oh, people are super nice here.
Yeah.
And you get both. You want to get both. It's That's why I cannot focus on French learning.
Yeah. I mean, I'm even... Just within Canada, I'm constantly torn between wanting to stay in Montreal and wanting to move home to be closer with family, or maybe someday we'll like move to Europe and just live somewhere completely different. Like I always want to do all these different things, but it's so much time, man.
But after I guess you said 4 or 5 years in San Francisco. After that, you came back right at in Montreal, right?
Yeah. So I was Alberta for 23 years, California for 4, and now I've been here for 5. 5
years. So the EA, so you have to move to Montreal for the EA.
Yeah, so
they don't have the San Francisco EA. They do have, right?
They do. So it's actually where their headquarters is in just outside of San Francisco. But it's the way it works is basically Electronic Arts EA has their headquarters in San Francisco, and that's publishing. That's the CEO. That's the business people. They run all the money. They run the company. The publisher has several different game development studios. Some of them are in San Francisco in the same building. Some of them are in Los Angeles. Some of them are in Montreal. Some are in Vancouver. Some are in England. They're everywhere. So the Montreal studio, they started for the tax breaks and for the talent.
Money.
Yeah. I mean, you get to save money. You get to hire up a bunch of people who have made a bunch of games at other studios, and you get to make a bunch of money on Star Wars games. Perfect. Go. That was kind of the approach. Oh, we're getting slowly through that bottle.
So like you moved to Montreal. How do you like Montreal? That first time in Montreal, right?
It is, yeah. I had visited once, like 12 years ago, with a friend. Like we came out. His brother was living out here, so we came for a visit. And I liked it. I liked the food. I liked it felt old, like a European city old kind of thing. I like that blend of new kind of big brick buildings and brand new glass buildings. It's a very cool city. I like the food in Montreal a lot. Food is definitely like my favorite thing about the city. Same with San Francisco. It's nice to live in a city where the public transit is really nice. I don't have to have a car.
Yeah, exactly.
I do not miss having a car at all.
No, it's very rare in North America. You have a really good public transportation system.
Definitely. I quite like Montreal.
But is that French bothering you? French language?
No, it doesn't bother me at all. Because I came here with the understanding that I will be an outlier, right? Like I will be somebody who frustrates people because I don't speak French. And I tried to learn French when I was here, and I learned a little bit in high school, so I have like a base knowledge.
But you can speak or you can understand?
Yeah, not really.
I think the old English, they're very close to French. Like if you have English accent, I guess it's the English accent is like they say something like you pronounce with effort. That's like a totally French. French, you feel like after speaking for 1 hour, you have to take a break, right? Because they pronounce everything is so thorough.
Yeah.
Like English is the same. British English, they kind of you feel the effort. Like you guys have to, like Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson have to take a break every 5 minutes after speaking 5 minutes, right? Because it's everything so thorough. They pronounce.
That's why he gets nothing done. It's because he's always taking breaks.
Yeah, exactly. Like American English is so easy. Like no. Like, when I sleep, I can speak American English, but not British English.
Well, I always feel bad when I talk to anybody who speaks English as a second language because I speak so quickly. Like I'm a very fast talker. I kind of mumble a little bit, so I move through words very quickly. And
no, not for me. It's okay. If I don't understand it, I say yes.
I'm gonna watch this and I'm gonna note every time.
If I don't understand it, if I don't get you, I'll say yeah. We through everything. Like when it's a yeah. Right now,
That's true though.
So it's easy for you to learn French, to be honest. Like if you very great understanding of English.
I just have to like put in the effort, and I haven't, kind of thing. So I have like a little bit of knowledge. I know some phrases. I know some expressions. I'll hear people talking, and I'll be like, oh, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what you're saying. You know, like I can understand a little. I can actually read. Okay, I can read French pretty well. Like if I look at a menu, I can generally understand. Like, I know what I'm looking at. But I'm a terrible speaker. I'm a terrible listener.
I guess they share the words like old times. French, English, a lot of time you can get.
Connections.
Like Japanese, Chinese, the same idea. I figure out when I'm learning French, I figure out like a lot of like the English word you don't use that often. Actually, it's a French word as well. A lot of like the same meaning. You can have used 2 or 3 different words English word. You see the one rarely used like the English word. Actually, it's a French word as well. For the same meaning. Yeah. It's kind of that thing, a phenomenon.
I think it's easy too, if not easy, but easier. Like if you know some Spanish, or you know some Italian, or you know some Portuguese, all these languages come from the same place, right?
Latin language.
Yeah, and they're connected. They're different, but they're connected. So I think I've been to Spain. Didn't talk about that. I went to Spain for a little bit, and my Spanish is awful, but because I knew a little bit of French, I could pick up a little bit of Spanish pretty quickly.
So for me, for me, if I don't achieve anything in my life, but if I know English, French, I will be really super happy when I die. I feel like a successful life.
That's it. Like being bilingual is amazing. Like I can't fathom knowing multiple languages.
I'm learning. Been learning self-learning for a long time French. My English is getting better and better, and if I can read French literature, like the Dumas, the Standard, those kind of literature in French, original, that would be amazing.
That's a big goal.
Yeah, exactly. I would try use dictionary. I will look up dictionary, but if I can finish the whole book, even with the help of dictionary, that would be amazing for me. It's amazing. English, I spend way too much time on English, but it's amazing. It opens up a lot of stuff to me. I watch a lot of American shows. The conversations on a lot of things. It's amazing. It's totally language is amazing.
It's amazing. Something I noticed because I took French classes for a while, and after when you're doing it consistently, and you're genuinely putting in the effort, it starts to become a little more natural. And it's something I noticed, and this is the reason I wish I kept through with it, is I started to think in French, or I would have thoughts that were like weaving in and out of French. So I wanted to ask you, what goes on in your head? Are you internally in your head when you're thinking? Are you speaking Chinese? Are you speaking
a lot of time in English now?
Interesting.
First time 10 years ago, I first time had a dream in English. I was scared. I was happy too.
It's because you're like, I didn't say to do that.
Yeah, and even like in the dream, next morning, I kind of recollect what I had in the dream. I literally had a conversation with another guy in English. That was first time. Like, maybe that means my English is not that bad.
It's a good place to go practice.
Exactly, in the dream. That's amazing. And then if one day if I can do that in French, that would be amazing. Probably my head would be messed up.
Just have a dream of 3 different versions of you speaking different languages to each other.
But for sure, like one day I would literally, if I'm okay with French, the next language I want to work on will be Japanese. Japanese will be very easy for us, not very easy, relatively easy with speaking Chinese will be easy.
Yeah, because you have a good foundation.
Yeah, foundation will be next. Because Japanese is so huge on the cartoons, not the cartoons. What is it called? Manga.
Yeah. The comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot of like some friends here, like they are Quebecois, and then they know a lot of French. Some of them, a lot of them Japanese.
Yeah.
Because reading those kind of mangas.
See, this is. I wish I could learn Japanese. I would, and the reason I would do it is not just because it'd be amazing. It would open up a lot of career opportunities. It would also mean I could go to Japan and travel and enjoy it more. But there's a series of books written by this guy named Arimasa Osawa, and it's like a detective novel series. It's about this cop in Shinjuku in like the 80s and 90s, and it's just like an interesting detective Yakuza gangster story. And I read the first novel. It's translated in English, and I just loved it. It's so good. And I ordered his second one, and I've been reading that, and it's excellent. And those are the only ones that have been translated, and he's been writing them for 20 years. So he has so many of these books that I'll never get to read.
It's amazing.
Unless I learn Japanese.
And on the YouTube, there's a guy, he has more than 1 million subscribers already. This guy has a series called One Day in Japan. One day of a life of a like space engineer, for example. A day of I kind of watch a lot of his YouTubes.
Yeah.
His about 1 day of like a manga. There's a manga writer or something. It's amazing. So how do they divide the studio? Only 6 people or 5 people. The founder of the company, they do this manga thing, and then he is responsible for creating those things. And end of every day, the boss will gonna go through like the work he did that day, and it's amazing. You see the day he probably got up at 6 in the morning, and the day he finishes his day 9, 10 up watching YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. That series you can Google, you can look up on the YouTube. It's 1 day in a life of. It's amazing. So they tell this different like space engineer. I saw another mom. It's called a Kimono Mom, and actually Kimono Mom, like she got like more than 1 million subscribers right after, because when this guy shoot a day of her life in YouTube, because a lot of millions of people viewed, and then she decided to have her own YouTube channel. It got more than 1 million. And the series called 1 Day in a Life of What is a Career. It's amazing. So this manga thing, they drew the characters, and then they even produce a model, like a
sculpt?
Yeah, sculpture thing. To see all this. It's a very mature industry. It's amazing. So they are only one of hundreds of this kind of studios. They're doing this, and then the best will come out very famously. But if they're not so successful, they're famous locally. And then it's amazing thing. Like people so dedicated.
Yeah, and manga in Japan it's so different than comics here. Like comics now, especially because of like Marvel movies and things like that, making it more popular. Comics are still not something that like your average person is reading on the train. Like a young person, maybe, but an adult 30s, 40s, not as common. Whereas in Japan, everybody reads manga because there's manga for everything. And it's really just like a book. It's just here's the story for the week. Read your manga, enjoy.
And the small studio only made of several people. The details, the dedication they put in is amazing. Everybody was. Also back to the culture is the dedication, the collective responsibility is so much. Even one employee, they are in charge of, for example, they're in charge of ordering the lunch boxes for all employees, responsible for cleaning up everything. So the work ethic
just so that they can continue to work.
Yeah, the work ethic is amazing. It's nobody forcing them to do this, but somehow this one person in charge of a lot of stuff. From the morning, they all get up super early. I saw all of them get up, brushing teeth, everything, like sleepwalking in the early morning, and it's amazing. So the work ethic is crazy. That's in the office. They kind of you don't. For example, some. Here in Montreal, sometimes you 8 hours in the office, you don't produce that much. You sometimes you want to watch some YouTube videos.
Yep.
You kind of, but for them, it's crazy. They clean everything. Even the one episode is about like a fire station, I guess, firefighters.
Oh yeah. Okay.
A day of firefighter. Even they kind of mop the fire trucks. They do just by themselves. They kind of super clean. Even there's one lady.
It's not like, oh, this is somebody else's job.
Yeah,
or somebody
exactly.
else's problem.
Even the
Like
one lady doing the delivery, she has a delivery job. Even the small truck, pickup truck, something the delivery trucks, they mop before they I guess it's from the company truck. It belongs to the company. When they switch the shift, they mop everything. They clean the whole truck. It's crazy. It's seriously insane.
I love it.
It's insane. It's like I watched a lot of that YouTube video from that kind of subscribe.
It seems like that's what I love about YouTube now too. Is like when YouTube first came out, it was really just a place for any idiot to upload whatever, right? And now it's become programmed. Like there are channels I subscribe to because I want to see, okay, it's a travelogue. It's a guy who is roaming the world, right? He's just backpacking through the world on his YouTube channel, and that's how he makes money, and that's how he pays for his trips. And here's his video about spending a week in Iraq. And then after that, here's his week in Lebanon. And after that, here's a week in wherever. And it's just such a cool way to just like, I'm going to go to YouTube and like, what's this guy doing? Oh, he's in a different country? Let's learn about the country and his experience.
Actually, in Montreal, there's a guy the channel called New Travel. Actually, he does the thing. When I, on the YouTube, Montreal is nothing. It's very, very small dot on the YouTube, the whole thing. Very few. Montreal is a big city, but it's almost non-existent on the YouTube field, the social media thing. It's very, very small. But there's a channel called New Travel. It's from Montreal, the guy.
Not familiar. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, he traveled like different, like you said.
That's cool.
Experience in Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary. Right now, probably he's traveling to some like South American country, Guatemala or something. Guatemala. It's amazing. But very few, very, very few existence.
Yeah, definitely. That's maybe the dream job. It's just traveling and filming and putting it on YouTube, and then making money so you can do more travel.
It's weird. Montreal is supposed to be very big city though, but the existence on the social media is not that huge. Everything is dominated by United States.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Always.
But the gaming thing. Back to the gaming thing.
Yeah.
I'm also always wondering, like, because I'm an IT guy actually. I have some people, they do they're programmers.
Yeah.
What is when you have a game, like it's like doesn't matter, it's a PS game.
Yep.
Like Star Wars, their PlayStation game, right?
Yeah, it was PlayStation, Xbox, PC.
Yeah. So, but when you have a game, what percentage, like the work-wise, what percentage is like a writer or the graphic design or the real coding?
Yeah,
what is the
code I think of as like the skeleton and the brain of game development. Like you have to have it. It's everywhere. It connects to everything. Nothing about like, I can't write a sentence for a game and not have it impact code, right? Okay. Because code needs to tell everything. Okay, if this character is going to speak, we need the code to tell audio to play the audio file of the person speaking of their line. We need the code to tell the animation to play the right gesture for that. And maybe it's in the face, or it's
facial expression,
or in the hands, or it's just whatever, right? Just physicality for convincing that. The lighting, the visual effects, the modeling, all of it. It's like.
But do you need to specify that as well as a writer? Or do you put like a...
I probably should.
In the brackets saying like, you have to keep a crazy face here.
Yeah, my scripts are full of... Because if you read a screenplay for a movie, it's just a movie, right? Here's the lines, here's the... it tells you what character it is, it tells you what they're doing, where the scene is set, all of that. I do that with my scripts too, but other things I need to do is indicate... if I say there's a sound effect that plays, a gunshot in the distance, I need that in the script so that my audio team knows that has to happen. Yeah. Because if I don't tell them, they don't know, right? And it's I can't expect them to read hundreds of pages of a script and then go through it themselves to know, okay, well, sounds here, animation's there. So it's super collaborative, and you have to really be in contact with your team all the time. I had an idea this week for the project I'm on now. And the first thing I did was message my programmer, "Hey, can we do this?
Yeah.
Is this possible? Like,
it's too much cost
yeah,
or
like, because
too difficult.
I don't want to, I don't want to write something in the script and think, oh, I had this idea.
Yeah.
I would like to do this. I'm just going to do it, check with nobody, and expect it to happen. It doesn't work that way. Games, everybody is always talking all the time. You're always sharing what you're doing, because you have to. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to keep up with the project. The big thing with game development is, you watch documentaries about game development. It's very exciting because people are making cool, fun things, and they're talking about creativity, and it's really exciting. But honestly, most of game development is very boring. It's a lot of emails and spreadsheets and things like, it's just organization, documentation, making sure that, if somebody has a question, Mitch was doing this feature and he confirmed it with programming. Do we know if we can do it? That has to be tracked somewhere. So anybody on the team can look it up and know,
what happened before,
this is happening in the game. I don't know about percentage, because it's the kind of thing of like, programming is 100% of game development. But then there's also other people who are contributing a lot of stuff to it. Because nothing works without code. You have to have...
But the coding, do you have a special team for the... team for the... Another one for the special effect?
Oh, yeah. So it's interesting, too, because it depends on the size of your team. Because if you're a small team, right, you and I could... You're going to leave the restaurant business. We're going to start a game studio. You're a programmer. I'm a writer. We'll make something that looks bad because we're not artists. Great, and that's fine. Like, we could do that. But
small budget.
Yeah, but when you scale up the budget and you scale up the team and you have more and more people and more needs, especially for something like Star Wars, where everything is very specific in terms of what people expect it to look and sound like, because it's so known.
If you create a bad Star Wars game, that will, it's a Star Wars. It's like
you have to get everything exactly right. So like if you turn on a lightsaber and it honks like a goose, it's not gonna, it's not gonna work. What was I talking about?
Yeah.
So, I forgot how we got here.
So it's the percentage of the kind of the roles of different.
Exactly, and the more people you have, the more specialized they can become. So you might have someone whose specialty is they're a character artist, and they're doing 3D modeling of a head or a costume or something like that. Somebody else's job might be, once that's in the game, I need to light it. I'm doing, like, my whole job is lighting, making sure that everything is lit in a realistic and believable way that matches the art direction of the project, that looks realistic or cartoony or whatever it is. And then even more specifically, you might have somebody who's a VFX artist whose entire job is smoke. They need to make an awesome smoke effect. And they'll spend so much time and energy, building not just like, okay, I built this fire effect, and then on top of the fire effect, I built the smoke effect, and the smoke is coming out. And then also I built these little embers, and the embers are all flying out of the fire. It's super specialized and super specific on big scale projects.
Depends on the size of the team and the budget. Yeah. And what is the role? Who's in charge of overall everything?
It's different in different studios. At EA, we had basically we had a producer. So the producer was basically the person in charge of the production of the project. They would oversee, timelines, milestones. They make sure everything's happening on time. They're talking to the executives to tell them, hey, here's where we're at, and we're confident we're going to ship this thing on time. They run the team for the project. And then at EA, we had these people called development directors. And they're your DD, and I had a DD for narrative, and they would oversee me, the narrative designers, the cinematic team. So if it was like, they had to manage me and my script tasks, but also, hey, is that shot done for that cinematic? Hey, is that character model done? Have we hired that actor yet? Those kinds of things. They manage.
There's an actor as well.
Yeah, but they're not in the studio. It's like if you're, and not every game has it, right? Like you're not going to need an actor for Tetris. But if you have a character who is going to speak, or you're going to hire an actor and you're going to scan their face and you're going to use their likeness in the game, then you would hire them in. You would film them filming their scenes, all that kind of stuff. It can get to be a lot of people. Like a studio might have 100 people on a team, but then how many people you're hiring outside to help with art and help with visual effects and actors and people who are paying the actors. Who's running our set safety? Who's our stunt coordinator?
So this guy is development, like what is this guy DD thing is kind of.
They're basically
it's like director,
of the
like
team.
a director of a movie.
Yeah, but it's kind of a combination of a director of a movie and a producer, where it's like we're making sure that you're doing the right stuff, that you're doing a good job, and that you're doing it on time. But not in a way that's like, are you doing it on time? Most of the time, it's really just I guess that depends on the state of the production, because if you're late in production, you're trying to ship this thing on time, yeah, it'll be a little more intense.
But what is, if it's a coder, do they like 1/3 of the whole thing, or like is that even close to 1/3 of the thing?
It's probably more, honestly. Like
really?
Yeah, it's hard to tell too, because everybody relies on programming and everybody needs programming to build things for them, because you need to code for all of the tools for the game engine.
Yeah.
You need it to make animations function. You need it for, like, if you're going to have, as an example, if you're going to have a game where, let's say it's like the Matrix, right? Mm-hmm. Action game, guns and kung fu, and slow motion. You want everything to be in slow motion on command. The player presses a button and boom, slow motion. Programming needs to know that early so that everything can be accounted for. Because if you tell programming halfway through production, hey, we want to add this feature where everything's in slow motion, if they haven't built the game for that, or they don't have the tools for that.
Oh, they did not have that done that before, so maybe extra cost.
Exactly. Now it becomes, okay, well, we could do that, but it's going to take extra time, and maybe you're going to delay the project, or we have to hire another person. It gets very, very complicated. But yeah, programming
are they gonna fail? Probably they feel they are the bottom of the food chain, or
in terms of like, oh man, in my experience, like programmers are top of the food chain.
Really?
Yeah, because you need them. But that said, I mean, you need quality assurance people too, and quality assurance is often in the bottom of the food chain in game development as well, which is not really fair because they're treated
quality assurance, right?
Yeah, because QA is always treated like, oh, you're not a developer, right? You're not part of the team. Which is shitty. Yeah. It's the worst because it's not true. QA is so vital
important,
to everything because you don't have quality without them. You can't test your product without them. You don't know what's working.
Yeah, exactly.
They're your first people in game development. They're your first players.
But the problem, they created troubles.
Yeah, because they're finding all sorts of problems.
Exactly, they are not welcome.
Exactly, and I think that's why some developers look down on QA because they're creating problems, but really you're the designer. Yeah. You caused the problem. They just found it and told you.
Especially when they find some problem, it's not a problem. So what the hell?
Yeah, that's it's like, well, I know. That's as intended. And that's where you just need better communication and things like that. But no, in my experience, programmers, because they're so necessary. Like, I never want to piss off a programmer. I always try to make friends with the programmers because they're the people who
realize your stuff.
Yeah, without them, you're hopeless. You can't do it.
But for the writers, like your job, like make it more interesting and also make sure like this can be done within a reasonable budget, right? Or the current technology.
Yeah, and that's my thing now is on my current project, I'm the only writer. And I'm doing a lot of like my own management and production planning. So I'm looking at not just, okay, I need to write the script and make these characters interesting and make the dialogue funny or sad or whatever it's going to be. On top of that, I need to know mathematically how many lines are in this game, because I need to know how many lines of dialogue exist so we can figure out how many actors we need to hire, how many times they're going to need to come in for a recording session. They're going to come in for 4 hours at a time. They can do an average of 200, 300 lines every 4-hour session. Okay, now I got to figure out like how many times do I need this actor in the booth? How many times do we have to get them to come back? All sorts of stuff. It's not just the act of writing. It's figuring out how the writing is going to get into the game as well.
But actually, I saw somewhere like you left the EA already, right?
Yeah, last summer.
That was a big jump.
It was, because it was a very big studio. I had worked on 2 Star Wars games, so I worked at like a big company working on the biggest franchise in existence.
Yeah, everybody likes working those big corporations, and then it's
very secure.
Exactly, like you can retire there.
Yeah.
In the IT field, we call CN. You know the CN company. CN is the Canada Railway.
Yeah.
the CN company for the IT, I guess you can retire there. Even you are 30 years old, you probably get it. Yeah, exactly. You retire there when you are 30.
Yeah. Well, like, that's the thing too. Is like I left Electronic Arts because I just wanted something to change, right? I just wanted to try something else. I had shipped 2 Star Wars games. I wanted to do something new. So I left thinking, I'm going to be a freelancer. I'm going to make myself available to any number of studios who might want to hire me. I thought I would do this for a year and then see what happens. If it's going badly, maybe I'll go back to a studio full time. If it's going really well, maybe I can do more or hire someone to help me and we can have like Sweet Baby, Kim's company, things like that.
That's why when you are young, you have
you
have time to take risks.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's kind of a big risk that like leaving a very, very well like reputable great company like EA.
Yeah, I had a good time there. Like every company has its problems, and making games is so difficult that no matter where you go, it's always going to have its own set of challenges. Nothing is ever going to be perfect, and that's fine. That's any job. Any job that you love is still going to have that a bit where you're like, I wish it could be better.
But right now you are kind of a year already after.
It was about a year ago that I left, and then one of the studios that I was working with offered me a full-time job, so I took that. I ended up taking that job, working on just a. Oh, I can't talk about it. I wish I could. Yeah. Maybe next year. We'll do this again next year. I'll tell you all about my game.
That's great.
But yeah, it was definitely scary because it was the middle of a pandemic, and I was leaving a full-time job and security and stocks and bonuses and all the shit that comes with being at a real company. And I was like, I'm going to go to I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to have worse pay and no benefits.
But actually, like when you this, how do you're leaving a big, huge company? You kind of adventurous, but like. What do you improve? Like, what do you do to make sure you still have the edge? Still like how do you like as a game writer right now? You may do a little bit design or the producer role, right? But how do you maintain or even improve? Like,
I think it's interesting because
you read different the New York Times, read something.
Definitely. Yeah, I think. Because one of the first job I got when I left EA was working for another studio in Montreal, working on a DC Comics game. And that was nice because it was a great team. They already knew what their narrative was, and I came in to help them out for a couple months. Basically, I came in and I wrote a bunch of dialogue and a couple scenes and things like that. Helped them out, wrote a couple levels and missions. And it was nice because it was just, it was what I had been doing and it was what I thought I was good at. I think I'm pretty good at dialogue. I like to write dumb jokes, things like that. So it was like good. I'm in my comfort zone.
It have to be fun, right?
Yeah, because if you're making a game and it's not fun, then what's the point? And not just like when you're playing it, but when you're engaging with characters. If they're boring or they're wet towels, then who cares, right? So that's the stuff I think I'm good at, and that's the stuff that I like doing. And now after that project, I started with the current project I'm on. I'm starting to do things that I had never done. I'm starting to do more production work. I'm starting to do a lot more boring spreadsheets and database stuff and documentation and
management
operations coordination, like getting in touch with studios about recording and booking booth time and figuring out how do we work with unions to collaborate with actors. Like that kind of stuff is so new and it's a new kind of challenge, right? It's stuff that I know needs to be done, but I've never done it before. So trying out new things, trying to succeed in new tasks and new skills, I think is the only way that you can kind of keep that edge.
More human connection, people to people.
Yeah, because it's not just technical skills when you're writing. It's a lot of soft skills. It's like if I come to you with a creative problem, trying to solve that problem isn't just as easy as, well, okay, here's the mathematical solution. It's you and I have different creative energies and ideas, and we're going to bring different ideas to the problem. So you need soft skills. You need to know how to work with people. You need to know how to kind of suppress your ego. So it's not just, it's my story. It's my writing. I'm the writer. I'm special. It's like good ideas can come from anywhere. And that's like an exciting and frustrating thing is, you'll be in a meeting and an artist will just say, oh, what if we did this? Why didn't I think of that? It's so good. So you need to be able to accept ideas from other people and say like, yes, let's make that dream a reality.
Exactly. When you have deal with people, like as a restaurant owner, serious, I don't have ego.
yeah. Well, that's very evident. Like your reviews of the menu are very clear about that, because you're very clear in the menu of like, I don't really care for this item, or
no, actually,
this is popular and I don't really know why.
Actually, when you deal with the kitchen team, you don't have too much to say as well.
Yeah.
It's like you have to leave I have to leave the ego. Seriously, I don't have ego, because actually they create the job, they create the thing, they cook the thing, and I cannot tell them, okay, this one I don't like this one. You cook by yourself. Cook yourself. It's very, very tough. It's like when you deal with people, the ego will be the least thing to.
It's helpful in the kitchen too, because being able to, when you're working on a dish and you're cooking for a lot of people very rapidly, like
exactly,
being able to look at something and say, this isn't good enough, and not, you hurt something. Oh no, little fuzz.
Yeah,
that's okay. I'll live.
It's like.
You have to be able to have those kinds of open conversations without, my feelings got hurt, and I'm taking it really personally, because it's not personal. Like, if somebody tells me a line of dialogue isn't good, maybe I think they're wrong. Yeah. Maybe I think it's funny because it's a good joke, and it's, okay, humor is subjective. But if somebody tells me, hey, this line just isn't useful, like, what is it saying? The character just says this thing. What does it mean? It's not emotionally impactful. It's not information they need. What's it for? Get rid of it. And that's like, I was thinking when you were talking about cutting your menu down, it's almost like editing, writing, where it's, okay, you've got all of this stuff, and all of it's pretty good. But if you reduce, you can kind of sharpen the edges and stay focused, and it gets a little better every time.
Or even you talk to the chef or the cooks, like saying, like, can you do this much better? But then you want me to do the fast. You want to do like for the rush hours, and then you want to like, let's have so many orders at the same time. You want to do so many different things. It's not impossible. Sometimes you can ask them to do a lot of things, but in reality you cannot. And if you have some people, they don't have the patience. You get into something. It's you have to deal with the people. When you deal with the people, there's something. That's why I'm saying always, like I like being water, so adapt to the form.
I'm very similar. I'm with you completely. I get that.
Yeah, that's the thing. The book I recommend you at the Dream of the Red Chamber. The Red Chamber.
I did write it down.
The main character, the hero is a young boy, probably 12 or 15, 16 years old. There's a very famous quote on this whole book: is the woman like a water, man like mud. It's we are dirty, men are dirty, like we are mud. Like the woman thick. Woman like a water. It's a very famous quote on the whole book.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's why I like being water. Yeah. When you're being water, you change your shape, adapting to the situations. That's why my personality is very soft. When you are a restaurant owner, you have to be soft. To be honest, if you think, it has to be done this way, but in reality, like you have so many people working on the whole thing, and if you insist on the outcome of this, like the way you're doing this, but the reality is like you don't have a lot of people, you don't know what you are talking about. The people in the back in the kitchen, they say, you're kind of out of touch, They one time you did this, it's fine. 2 times, 3 times, they kind of you don't know what you're talking about. Sometimes, like you lose the respect or something.
It's funny too. The more we talk about it, the more I think that making games and making food is very similar, because you have your team in the kitchen, the same way you have a development team, and they're very focused and skilled, and they're making wonderful things. But that's not the end of the work, right? The work only begins once the people have the food. Once the players have the game.
Even we make more mistakes in the front than them in the back, actually. It's sometimes
I would imagine that's pretty common, because it's in the back. It's very okay. We know what we need to do, and we're very fucking good at it. Let's do it. And out front, it's every single person out here is a different audience member. They all have different histories and different wants and different needs, and they like that, but they don't like that.
Even sometimes, like some customer, they are in the good mood, sometimes in the bad mood, and everything you do is wrong. It's everything you do is like
You gotta smile and say thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
They first came in the
accepted.
restaurant. They say, "Oh, it's a little bit cold in the room." You know, it's like the moment that they came in, they're not happy.
Yeah.
You know, it's
might not even be cold too. It's like you just came in from 30 below and you're in a warm restaurant. You just give them a minute.
It's very, but it's in reality. I say it a lot of times. Like having a restaurant, that's why I'm saying we're not doing good. Even today, it's very difficult to do a restaurant. Even the restaurant is, I guess you make least errors. You always have errors. Like it's human thing. You have problem here or there, but always you try to make less.
Yeah.
Like that's why I always, even today, I'm really struggling too. I'm really I don't know myself, reading too much books. Like when I was young, we have like little bit perfect set, like some ideals.
Yeah.
Like, but sometimes way far from the things, the picture I want to have. But it's a reality.
Yeah.
I'm good at living with the reality. I'm really good at. Yesterday I was sometimes really feel really low. Sometimes feel like I feel like probably we are doing well. Sometimes really, we have so much room to improve. It's even every day. It's like that's why I worry a lot. It's that's a bad habit of worrying.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's a training. When I was really young, it's kind of I worry too much or something. But the reality is really we cannot be too good. It cannot be very good. So it's improving is it's very very. It's my constant theme is to try to improve. But sometimes even today may not be better than yesterday. It's very very interesting thing.
Do you read much philosophy, like Stoic philosophy?
Yes.
I think you'd like Marcus Aurelius books, like his Meditations. I think you'd like those a lot.
Yeah, it's
he talks a lot about like the way we can control that worry is having the understanding like you currently do, which is this is the reality, right? This is where I am. I'm in the present. This is what's happening. This is what's true. I'm aware of what I can change. I'm aware of what I can't. There's no sense in worrying about what already happened because it's already passed. It's done. And I can't really stress about what's going to happen because I don't necessarily have control over the future. Reading that shit was so helpful to me. And I started reading this in the pandemic too because I was getting very existential and things like that. And those anxieties can be overwhelming. I think that line of thinking, which you're clearly already on, is a nice way to achieve a little bit of personal peace day to day and kind of suppress some of those anxieties. You don't need the peppers either. You don't need the peppers either for the...
No, this one you can never eat.
No, they're difficult.
Yeah.
They add a nice bit of flavor though, a little bit of heat.
The thing it's weird is it's from Thailand though. It's from Thailand. And that's the best we found in the market. It's very, very, very hot.
Yeah.
And it's very expensive too. The small bag, if you're in the grocery market, the Chinese grocery, a small bag, $1 for very small bag. So, but we use different kind of dry red chili, and they are almost the best one somehow. It's from Thailand.
Yeah.
I guess they eat crazy spicy food as well.
Man, you're hungrier than I am today. I didn't eat all morning, so I was like, I'm going in. I'm going to not eat anything. I'm so excited.
I did not eat anything either. I used to eat Cheerios and milk. And this morning I skipped that.
Yeah. And now I'm like so full. I feel like we barely made it then.
But do you think the Montreal as definitely you don't like? Do you plan to stay in Montreal for a long, long time?
I don't think I do. We've talked about my partner and I. She has family in BC. I have family in Alberta. Our parents are getting a little older. Our siblings are having kids. So we're starting to feel that pull to go home.
Okay.
Be closer to home, be closer to our families.
At least the very west.
Yeah. But we've been talking about it for several years, saying, oh, next year. Next year's the year we're going to move home, whatever, buy a house, settle down.
Yep. And
every time our lease renewal comes around, we're like, but we like Montreal so much.
Another year?
Yeah, so we do another year. So we just our lease renewed in September. We're like, all right, we'll do another year. And now we're like, well, if we're going to buy a house, we should probably think about starting that process in like March so that we can have our, prep to buy a house, and our lease expires in September again. And now we're like, well, maybe 2023. So every year we're like, oh, maybe another year, maybe another year. And it's an interesting conflict because I like being here, but I'm also but I'm also ready to go. Because I've done 5 years here.
But Montreal is very interesting. If you go to in Canada, except Toronto and other cities, they're relatively small comparing to Montreal.
Oh yeah. And in Alberta, every city is small. Like Calgary's not a big city. It's getting bigger, but it's not.
But it's boring if you.
Yeah.
I would say like I've been 15 years all Montreal. I really like Montreal. Even my French is really bad.
Yeah. But, I think if we decided that we're not going to move home, I think we would definitely stay here.
Yeah.
Because we have an amazing group of friends. We've had like great time with our careers in Montreal. Incredible food.
Does she speak French?
No. She's doing classes right now. And it's funny because I had done classes for a little bit, and I've retained a little bit of French, but like we discussed, I'm not very good. But it's funny now because she's been learning. And every time she comes out of a class, so we're trying to do a little bit of talking in French, and what did you learn today? Things like that. And I would always try to have like, I remember, in Quebec French, it's like this, but in French, it's like this. Like those kinds of fun facts that I learned from class. And now I'm out of all of those. I've exhausted my knowledge, and now she's way better at French than I am. So she's learning, because she wants to be able to speak French.
Yeah, even when I dig out several days ago, the old thing, 2006, when I first got here, I even paid to learn French. Actually, I saw that the Anima or something in the website. I even paid for, me and my wife, we paid for French classes.
Yeah.
I was so enthusiastic about learning French.
Yeah.
But Quebec, the Montreal, it's right now, it's very, very interesting. If the CAQ, right? CAQ, the François Legault. If they pushing more and more French, that kind of it looks like the city itself, Montreal, is, I don't know, it's probably to say it. If you have more and more friends, you may not be, economy may not be that growing that fast, like more recognized internationally. Like if you have more and more French, less English, it could be true, right?
Yeah, and it's an interesting balance because I understand the Quebecois desire to preserve French and keep it as the primary language of the province. But I also think that the enforcement of French is enough that
it could be detrimental to the status.
It's difficult to convince people to. So Montreal as a place for game development talent, especially, very rich. Lots of people here. Convincing people, especially in high up positions like director positions, to come to Montreal
to speak French
is very difficult because, especially if you're coming from the States, you have to learn French. You must learn French to stay here.
But the talent, they don't care about languages, right? If you have the talent,
exactly. So it's like, you're good. Please come.
Exactly. So,
but if it comes with this caveat of come here, but you have to learn French, it's like, well, that's difficult. Like, I understand why I would need to learn French, but that's a huge commitment to learn another language. And some people are willing to do it because, of course, like learning a language is great. They want to participate in the culture, and that's great. But for some people, it's like, I have a family, I have a job.
If you are busy with other things, like I'm 42, when I learn French, I feel like
you have a restaurant, you have a daughter. It's hard to make the time.
I constantly worry.
Yeah.
my head is half full already.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So sometimes you just cannot attract top talent people to, because some people, if you take talent and you ask at the same time, you have to speak French.
Yeah.
Like even right now, they're talking about the GM of Canadians, the hockey team.
Yeah.
They want the GM has to speak French or something. Yeah. So, or the head coach or something. But if you want
most of the players aren't from Quebec.
Yeah, if you want the top people to make you a successful team, club, and at the same time, you have to, they have to speak French, so the pool is much smaller.
Yeah.
If you draw a talent from that much smaller pool to expect them to succeed on the very competitive environment of the league, it's almost impossible. That's Tom Cruise. Yeah. Like, Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
There we go. Seriously, that's because I'm from outside. I came here. I found an opportunity here, so I live here. I kind of I'm a small fish in the pot in
Sure.
the pond, so I don't mind, to be honest. I don't have talent, but for some people, they do have top talent. They don't give a damn about right. The people I always say, like, people on the top, the talent people.
Yeah.
They don't give a damn about anything. They just do their stuff,
Yeah.
and they are pretty good at it. So if they tell them to do this, they will wrap up and leave, right? Because they don't want to take your, command of doing. You have to do this. The top people, they don't care.
Yeah.
They kind of
because they can do it where they're comfortable.
Yeah, the reason they're being top, they are super focused on what they're doing. They are top of the food chain. They're great. They have great talent. That means like they are super focused. If they are super good at this, and you put them aside, so let's speak French first, and then they are not that good anymore, right? You need the people. I say, like, a lot of people, the top people, they are very paranoid. They are very crazy because they focus everything. They put their all energy. Like, if you, like myself, I'm always worried about something. I cannot achieve something really great because people, they're super focused. Like, those people, they don't like those kind of crabs. No, they don't like those kind of stuff. Like, you have to.
Yeah, people don't like being told what to do.
Exactly, the top people, exactly, especially the top people, they don't follow rules sometimes. That's how they get the top position.
Yeah.
It's like Montreal is a city. You look at it, probably, I feel like really a little bit pity. Like, you kind of ask people to do the extra lift, they have to have the extra. If you want the city to be a great city, you have to give people a freedom to,
it's about openness, right, and being welcoming and being
exactly
encouraging of diverse experiences, regardless of whether or not you are willing to learn this particular language. But I think it's also something I definitely understand from the Quebecois perspective, because everywhere else in Canada, the expectation is that, you got to learn English, right?
Yeah,
You don't speak English, that's frustrating for me, the English speaker. And that's not good. Like, that's not better.
It's a balance, actually. It is a balance. Young people, like my daughter, she speaks perfect French, actually, like the public French school.
Yeah.
So it's a balance. You can require, maybe your education system from the public school, they speak French, it's fine. It's a balance, but if you don't want to move further to put extra, a little bit, it's a balance. You need to find a really good balance. Otherwise, if the Montreal is totally a French city, I think they're gonna do even worse than today, probably, because right now it's the trend is international, right? It's globalization. You have the top talent. They find the people. They find the city, have something attract them. Maybe they have a good family here, and they can bring their talent here.
Yeah.
They choose to settle down. But if you give them a little bit too much trouble, there's a threshold. Probably a threshold. You give a little bit this trouble, I'm okay with my kid, wife. We live a good life here. And then if you give them, if you give them too much trouble, they say one day they're gonna say, okay, let's move out. It's you don't want to have a mediocre, right?
Yeah.
Because like me myself, I really think I like being mediocre myself.
I'm very comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
In that, like, 5 to 6, 7 out of 10 range.
Exactly.
Love it. Love
because like being mediocre is nothing wrong with it. I like being mediocre, but at the same time, I do admire people achieve extremely. I admire people like top people, like they put effort, they put everything. They don't have good personal, they don't maintain good relationship with some people, but they are strict, they focused. So they achieve a lot of amazing things. So I admire them, but that's not me. I want to be mediocre. I want to be comfortable, like nobody recognize me. I make a little bit living, not like too much. Like, no, like, guys, if you have too much money, you may have trouble as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you kind of have status, social status, have money, and you have problem with family a lot of times. But being mediocre is really my thing. I really like, but at the same time, I really admire people. They can achieve amazing things.
Yeah.
But that's not a contradicting for me, because it's people. They have different life. They have different stuff. They have pursuit of their goals. And if you really want to be the top CEO in the world and you create some stuff, it's good for you. I really like to stay.
I'm good here.
Yeah, it's as a small restaurant, as long as like can have at the end of the year and when do the up filing tax, I have a little bit left for probably the same money coming from the full-time IT job would be great. Right? Because you don't want to be kind of too crazy. But Montreal, when I came here, I found Montreal is an amazing city with a super rich history, and even in the North America, almost number 2 or number 3 in the whole North America. Right now, look at it's going down like crazy. It's like people don't respect this city anymore. Yeah. It used to be top 3 or top 5 at least in North America. Right now, what is this city standing in in North America? Nobody cares about you, and right? It's the how you manage the city, or you want to, there's a way to make it keep the balance. It's a respectable city. It's amazing. They had Olympics, everything, and look at Toronto. Toronto, right? They have Raptors. They had a championship.
The Raptors, man.
It's amazing. So people if you want the kind of super strong economy, they probably were, or the job opportunities. A lot of people move to Toronto. Yeah, it's amazing because big market and maybe the policies will be more open, right? Yeah. More loose, and then it's amazing.
It's just impossible to live in cities like that. Yeah, it's so expensive. Yeah. But you have to find the top tier jobs to be able to be
exactly. But if you are the top people and you strive to be the top and you have big dream, you probably want to give it a try there. It's a big market. It's like in China. Even they see a lot of problem here or there. But if you kind of have some ideas, or if you think you can make big money, probably want to give a try there. You don't want to go to a city it's like you can do best, you're on top of the food chain, but still the market is so small, so you make very little out of it. So Toronto is give you that kind of feeling. It's if the Montreal is if very open society, people, especially the government, they're open-minded, they kind of keep the talent coming and give them enough room to grow, to express themselves. And probably we used to be we used to be the number 1 in Canada, right? Montreal used to be the number 1. Right now, we are way behind Toronto, way behind. That's why I'm asking you, are you planning to stay in Montreal? We need to, it's a lot of have a lot of interesting people, a lot of talent, either here or there. Collectively, if a lot of individuals, they are talented and they're doing great in their post, and collectively the city will expand. It will stand out. That's how the Toronto is doing, I guess. You have especially a lot of Chinese immigrants and Indian immigrants. They all live in Toronto. And
there's decent Indian immigration or Indian immigrants here too. The population here, I feel like, for Indian immigrants is pretty high.
It's high, but a lot more in Toronto. A lot more because the English language itself. Yeah, it helps. Yeah. I guess for them it's difficult to learn French as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because coming here, right? You learned English. And now you're learning French, difficult. So it's you took them in phases over the course of what, 10, 12 years?
Yeah, exactly.
Before you're all right, good enough at English, and now I'll start French.
After 40 years old, let's start over.
That's what's so intimidating about language. It's so difficult to learn because it takes the time and the energy and the effort. It's obviously worth it.
Maybe the Simon Baguette or the young immigration of a minister in Quebec. This guy is 30-something. And he's saying we have to push French. It looks so easy, but how about this guy learning Chinese or whatever? It's very difficult. At the same time, you have to find a job for support the family, and then when you're old, and then your head just does not accept new language. Right now, especially when I'm 42, it's so difficult.
The older you get, the harder it gets. For sure.
It's the best way to learn French when I try to sleep. If I'm reading, exactly, and then all of a sudden, after 2 minutes or something, I fall asleep. So that helps.
Yeah.
Helps you to.
That's what I used to when I was learning Japanese for my first trip because I wanted to be able to navigate. I would listen to books on tape, and I would listen to the same lessons over and over every night when I went to bed, specifically just so I could hear it while I was unconscious and just doze off and listen to it and think about Japanese.
Some people they think it's so easy to learn that. You in Quebec you have to learn French. It's for them very easy to say.
Sure.
But like when you have a big family to support, and then you are 40 years old, and that's like incredibly difficult. Yeah, it's very, and your brain just does not register those kind of pronunciation, the vocabulary.
Because you've been doing so much else for so long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also, if you're a child, it's fine because you don't worry about anything. You don't worry about a
you
job.
Don't know anything yet.
Yeah, exactly.
You got nothing going on. You just learn some language.
Yeah, exactly. It's so difficult. For every time I hear those the politicians saying, you have to study French in Quebec. Yeah, it's true, but it's so difficult, like crazy. And a lot of them, majority, unless some people they're from like some country, the French was there already foreign language. Some other countries, but in China, India, the people first learn English, and then we kind of. With some English level is kind of 50%, and then now on top of that you want to learn French.
Well, yeah, and especially if you're coming from somewhere like China, or you're speaking, if you speak Farsi, Kurmanji, like any language that's not rooted in everything in Latin, everything we know, it's significantly harder for you to come to Canada and learn not one but two languages.
It's very, very, very tough. I'm still learning. To be correct, seriously, I spent a lot of time learning French. Yeah, it's just very bad.
It's such a beautiful language, though, for real.
Seriously,
I love the way it sounds. Even like I know that people kind of rag on Quebec because Quebecois French is a little uglier, for a lack of a better term. Yeah, because if you go to France or you speak to French people, the way they talk about French and the pronunciations is very like it's just a little different. In Quebec, like the word something, quelque chose.
Yeah, quelque chose.
Quelque chose. In French, you enunciate quelque chose.
No. In
Quebec, it's a lot more crunchy and short. Quelque chose. You know, you got to remove some syllables, and I know that rubs some French people the wrong way because it's like it's like a bastardization of our language, or it's a different version of it's not right. But both of them are so beautiful and interesting in their own ways. Like I love the different ways. The same or a similar language sounds. I
like also the accent always put on the last symbol. Not symbol, the syllable. Last syllable. Right? It's kind of universal. They always keep that way. It's uniform, right? Yeah. That helps. Like English, where you put the accent is what is the accent? Accentu. Like you kind of. Yeah. It's every word is different. It's very tough at the beginning. It took me like several years to find that thing. Like this we need to put a like emphasis on here. This symbol, like a syllable, and then the other word will be another one. But the French almost the last one, right? Almost always the last one.
Yep.
Syllable.
There's interesting quirks with different languages too, right? Like in English, I'm trying to think of a good word, but like. To say thank you, it's just thank you.
Yeah. In
Japanese, arigato. And you hit the R in that word different, arigato.
Yeah.
And we don't have that D sound for an R sound in English. I can't think of any words. And I'm sure there's some examples, but there's none that immediately come to mind where the R sound is like almost like a roll, like your tongue is rolling, almost like in Spanish. We don't really have that sound. And it's interesting when you're learning other languages and you realize, they don't have that kind of sound. Like we don't have that kind of R, and in Japanese they don't have a lot of like L sounds.
Japanese is interesting. They have always a consonant and a vowel.
Yeah,
right? It's really interesting. Where did they?
It's very like methodically structured
and easy to pronounce though.
Yeah,
like in Chinese we used to have two vowels together, and even sometimes extreme cases they have three vowels together. So you have to really kind of taking the effort to have three vowels together.
Yeah, and like the word English and Japanese is one of my favorites. Iego. Iego. It's like it's like all vowels except for the G in the Iego.
Yeah. Let me see. Is that still?
Make sure that we're still recording. You're not out of space. Everything's fine. Good news. I keep having this constant.
You look great in the camera.
Nice.
Yeah.
I keep having this paranoid thought that I've turned off my microphone, but we're fine.
We need to finish the bottle before we finish.
Oh man!
Otherwise, it would be
Half a bottle ago you said that, and I was like, "Uh-oh!" And now I'm borderline drunk. So let's just carry on.
Sake is really great.
It really is. It's just so nice.
Yep.
I think the genius of sake is having a cup this size. Like when you get a highball at a bar and you have like a cup, right? Like one of these full of it's a whiskey Coke. It lasts you so long. It gets watered down and gross. Sake, it's just a little teeny tiny little bit of wine. It's awesome.
And also, it's easier than wine, though. Some dry wine is really dry.
I'm not a huge fan of wine.
Yeah,
I've never really developed a taste for it. Except for this.
Very difficult for me as well, especially the dry wine.
Yeah, I like dry red is really really tough.
I like the fruity thing.
Yeah, me too. Like pink and whites with like lots of like interesting fruity flavors.
I guess
Love it.
I guess the dry is for the old school. I guess old school.
Yeah.
I guess they must feel very good about themselves when they drink the dry. Okay, I'm good at this. I feel like people they have feel like a little bit they know things.
Yeah. I love that there's a job. So I think it's a French word, the sommelier.
Yeah, sommelier. Something.
Like you're just a wine expert.
Yeah,
you just know shit about wine. That's your job.
Actually, that's the very difficult word I learned. That English
Sommelier.
word, sommelier. Yeah.
It's mediocrity.
Literally, people they're good at the wine, and then they can tell, oh, this is from where, right? And they match with some food.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I learned a lot. In China, we have no such a thing.
Can't learn much from food.
Yeah, sommelier. But actually, like when you choose, like, did you literally like when at the very beginning of your career, like you chose to be a writer or something? Like it's risky. Yeah. It's kind of risky career.
Jesus Christ!
It's risky.
So I was only ever good at writing. I was only ever good at like English language arts class, right? So I would read books and read Shakespeare, and we would do plays, and I would write about them, and I would do drama classes and creative stuff, right? Like that was the only thing that really spoke to me, and it was the only thing I ever felt really good at. Even history, which I'm interested in, I never felt like I'm not good at retaining information.
Okay.
Like all of your amazing stories about the different dynasties and different times and the orders, I'm really bad at that kind of remembering that kind of structure and flow of time. I'm really bad at it. So for writing, it's nice because it's just, hey, you can do whatever you want. Most of the time it's bad, but sometimes you do all right, it's good.
But do you worry about the income?
Oh, yeah.
It's not stable
it's
most
not.
of the time.
No. And game development especially, because companies, the people who run game companies,
are they crazy?
Yeah.
Seriously, are they crazy? They kind of fire, like, I don't like you.
There's I don't know if it's quite like that, but there's like a lot of issues with like abusive and toxic management in games right now, and people are trying to improve like cultures inside of studios from the top down. Hey, you're a problem, right? You're the top of this company. You are responsible for issues that are hurting people. You need to get out and make room for people who can make it better. There's a lot of that going on right now, which is excellent. But the problem is a lot of people at the top don't make games, and they're not. They never made games. They're just businessmen, so they don't understand what it takes to actually make a game and ship a game. They just want to make money, and that makes it hard. I've now forgotten your original question.
No, I mean it's risky, right?
It is, yeah. And writing like game development being rocky.
It's so subjective sometimes. So subjective. It's like not like some computer skills or IT.
And it's unpredictable in games because no matter how successful your game is, your team
still
might get laid off. You might do a
Exactly.
great job and your game sells well, but hey, for the betterment of the business, we're going to let your whole team go. That happens constantly. So even when you're doing well, you never feel safe. And that's the worst thing about making games, is that you're constantly living in this world of like, well, I'm doing what I can, I'm happy doing it, but like, do I have a job in 6 months?
Even you are doing well.
Yep.
Even the game itself does well.
Yeah, there's like in the news right now, there's a company, they made $1 billion with this one game in the last quarter or something like that. They made $1 billion.
Jeez.
And they laid off like 25 people who made it.
That's crazy. That's we call it betrayal, right?
Yeah,
that's like betrayal.
People feel betrayed. So now there's like a lot of the conversation right now across the games industry is how do we protect workers? Where do we find ways to push management to do better? We have companies going on strike. We have.
But do they need to put aside some of the sales aside for in case, you know? Is that a good maybe a good plan?
Yeah, they probably should. I don't know why they don't, but it seems like they don't.
Like 5%, 3%.
Yeah, like companies don't seem to invest not just in studios, but in people, in talent, right? The people who are making the games that make you $1 billion with a B, $1 billion. You do nothing to make sure they stay or that they can thrive and be happy. And I assume that, you know, most of the time those businesses just give them money, stocks, those kinds of things, like golden parachutes, we call them. So it's like if you stay, you'll get rich. And that's an incentive for some people, and that's fine. But for people who aren't, you know, your QA teams who are looked down upon and treated very poorly when they deserve better, they're not offered the golden parachutes. They're not given those opportunities.
Oh, no stop options?
No. So for writing, writing is a discipline in games that's really interesting, and it's only recently started to be taken seriously because writing was always seen as this non-technical, non-development kind of discipline. You have your writer, and all they're doing is adding context and words to the very cool game. We made a cool game, now we need someone to make it all make sense. And for a long time, game writing wasn't taken very seriously by game developers. So they would be working on a game like a game with a story, and they wouldn't give a shit about the story.
I guess they like the special effects.
Yeah, because when you're, and I get it, because as a game designer, your whole interest is I want to make something that's fun and memorable and interesting to experience. And your concern doesn't make sense. And when a writer comes to you and says, "Hey, it doesn't make sense that you're playing a first-person shooter and you kill 100 people in 2 minutes," like it just doesn't make sense. So it's always about the balance. And I think that for writers, recently, we've started to definitely see more integration into game development teams that are more accepting of writers as not just like screenwriters, but narrative designers, people who are designing the story. They're designers too, because writing is design. It's not just, I put in some dialogue. I'm not just making the game make sense. I'm working with you to enhance the design. I'm working with you to make the design and the fun of the game and of whatever kind of game we're making. I'm working with you to try to complement each other. And it's not easy. And it's been a long road for a lot of people, and I got into this kind of right when things started to get better, which is very fortunate, because I knew a lot of game writers who felt a little bit bitter about how they were treated by teams. Yeah. I'm currently with a team right now that is like unbelievably good. They're so good at their jobs. They're super invested in narrative. I invest in what they're doing. We all care about each other's work, and it's the best way to make a good game that you're all excited to make.
But if you have great story, it will help you to achieve those kind of recognitions. But sometimes they maybe rely on more technical side, right? It depends on some games, the technical like kind of special effect, the fighting scene will be so crazy, and then you can control those kind of crazy, do all the moves.
And some games it's not even story, right? Like you might not necessarily be telling a structured act 1, 2, 3. Yeah, like you might have a shooter where you have different interesting characters, and the writing isn't okay. Well, what's the fantasy of the world? Yeah, you'll do that. You'll do the world building, but the player experience is always with the character. So you're trying to make interesting personalities, and memorable lines of dialogue, and anything you can do.
You can find a famous line, probably going to be famous forever.
Yeah, exactly.
What is that? I will come back from like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will be back.
I'll be back. Yeah,
I will be back. If you make that line for some popular games.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like very quotable things in game. That's a good goal, maybe, is to just have like a nice.
Are you always thinking about in your back mind you create that kind of line?
No,
it's a little bit selfish.
No, maybe like
always like I need to put that line. Any story I put.
Maybe it's like an ego thing of like you should write something that's going to be so memorable and good.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm like, no, like let's just do a good job, and because the funny thing is like you could try to write those lines and they might not work or they might not come off.
That line will live for 50 years.
Yeah, like
after 50 years, still people remember that line.
Like I'm willing to bet when James Cameron wrote Terminator 2, he wrote "I'll be back" or whatever. I don't think that. I don't think he was like, I just wrote like a classic line. I'm
my first step, the humankind's big step. What is that? The Armstrong?
One small step for mankind.
Yeah.
Or one I can't remember.
No, what
How do I not remember this?
All we remember is a step.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that it?
Yeah, probably.
There we go.
I
Stuff like that.
always suspect that's a line he played in his mind.
Oh, I bet the whole flight to the moon.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I can't wait for this moment.
Yeah.
Let me talk.
I'm gonna be so fucking famous.
Yeah, let me talk. This I have to let out this sentence, this line. It's amazing.
Yeah. But I honestly, like, if you're trying to write memorable quotes, you're just dooming yourself because you can't control it. You can't control what's going to resonate with people. Like, we would write scenes that we thought were like, all right, cool. Like, I don't know, I think it's bad. I hope people like it. And then it comes out and players love it. Like, my least favorite part of Star Wars Battlefront 2 is the entire player base's absolute favorite. Like, when we were making that game, we had a Luke Skywalker mission that we thought, narratively, from a writing perspective, I don't think this is Luke Skywalker. I don't think Luke Skywalker is the action hero, tough guy, lightsaber, sword fighting master. But players loved it. They loved him for it. And because they had a good time playing it, they dug some of the dialogue that we wrote for him, and that lines that we wrote that we thought that just sounds good. That sounds like Luke. Okay, cool. Don't think about it. Have become lines that people talk about. It's that was so good.
But if
Which
you
is nice.
if you kind of deviate too much from the original story, where the
Then
people have issues,
because then it stops feeling like the character, right?
Yeah.
Like if you write a Luke Skywalker who's bloodthirsty and he's excited to be killing people, it doesn't ring true and it doesn't feel good.
But you have to be really good at that story. The movies, at least the book.
Yeah. You got to be able to understand who the character is.
But when you grew up, you watch that movie a lot.
Oh yeah.
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
That's the thing. When I came here, the first time I kind of watched that 6 episodes thing, the 4 to 6 first, and then 1 to 3. Yep. With my capability of the ability of the English understanding, even today, very tough. Yeah. Very tough for me to understand that.
Well, because there's a lot of space sci-fi fantasy nonsense in it
very
too,
tough.
Right? Like it's
for me, the Desperate Housewives would be much better.
Yeah, because Star Wars it.
But it's a classic. I have to watch. I watched 2 times already, I believe. I still don't get it too much. Oh. Yeah, it's still very.
It's tough because they take the fantasy stuff and because there's a guy named Luke and there's a planet called Tatooine and there's the Death Star and it's it's almost
and that
comical.
golden boy was good at the beginning and then they turned out to be evil guy at the end.
Yeah,
I need to, after 10 years probably I can watch again. Probably I understand more.
You probably have a better time with it.
Yeah.
But I think I still even struggle and when we were making the game it's okay, there's fantasy elements and there's made up words and planets and aliens, but in the world of Star Wars it's just very normal for them, right? It's not remarkable that this planet is called whatever crazy name it's called, so you have to take it that seriously when you're writing it. And now your players, especially if English is your second language, if the world is there's a guy named Luke and he's a farmer and he's from Tatooine and he drives a land speeder and he has droids and it's there's all this terminology that's weaved in that it's not English, it's just made up space stuff.
But do you like the Game of Thrones?
I did for a while, yeah. I watched it for a few years and really enjoyed it, and the last couple seasons of the show kind of lost me.
Yeah, for me it's too crazy. I spent some money for the Crave TV. I signed up for Crave TV only for this.
Yeah, me too.
But the English is too bad, too difficult for me. It's crazy.
Have you seen on Crave TV Succession?
No, Crave TV is really bad for me. I'm IT guy, so the technology behind it's really bad. I think this is way behind Netflix. Way behind. It's
not a great service. I like that they have HBO so that I can watch Succession and watch these white business people collapse around each other. It's great. But also the application is bad. Yeah, it's not easy to navigate. The search functionality.
Exactly.
It crashes constantly.
I guess I paid $20 only for 2 months and after the Game of Thrones.
Well, that was us too. We got it for Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones ended. And we're like, well, now what? Cancel.
Yeah, exactly.
When stuff comes back, we'll resubscribe so we can have access. But
it's but as a pure, if you are pure writer for games, but is a natural path. If you have second thought, you can go back to a screenplay writer for movies, and also for you can write your own books.
I think there is some crossover. I know a lot of folks who write games also write
for the
books.
movies.
Yeah. There's because there's There's this guy called TJ Fixman. He used to write video games, and now he's writing movies, right? He wrote a bunch of films. A guy named Gary Whitta used to write for PC Gamer magazine, and then he wrote Rogue One, the Star Wars movie. And he's written some games. Thank you. There's definitely some. Yeah, we did it. We finally made it. A couple friends of mine, Sam Maggs, Mary Kinney, like they write novels and comics, and they write for all sorts of stuff on top of writing about games. On top of writing games. Man, I don't know how they do it. They all have so much hustle and energy, and I'm like,
you don't think about writing.
I aspire to have that much.
Yeah, like if you make one like J.K. Rowling, like that kind of Harry Potter thing, you kind of famous.
But it's hard. It's hard to, because when you spend all day writing and you're thinking
True
about
Blood, Twilight. True Blood.
I need my Twilight. That's all.
Yeah, Twilight.
Find my Twilight.
It's all 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, there we go. Then I'll just write Twilight fan fiction and then call it something else, and then I'll be good to go.
Yeah, if you're good at writing, it's amazing. You have many options in front of you.
I still think
you don't need to deal with people anymore. Actually, if you write I
think you do, because you need. It's a very solitary thing to write, and I don't like if I had a laptop here and I was writing a scene, it would bother me that you would be sitting there. Because I don't like when people watch me write. I really.
And always working on a MacBook.
Yeah.
If you use a PC, that's kind of.
I'm using a PC, so I'm a fake writer. I need to get a MacBook. So
MacBook. Yeah.
But like I don't like being around people when I'm writing. Like we'll have conversations about what the story should be, and that's a good character idea, or that's a fun scene moment. Great. But when it comes to I'm going to go write it, I need to vanish. I'm like a ghost. Great. Yeah. And that's where I'm at right now. As I told my boss this week, I was like, hey, FYI, I'm going to vanish for all of December to go rewrite. I'll see you in January. And he was like, great, go do what you need to do.
For me, I'm going to spend all that time watching Netflix.
I told him I'd be writing. I'm going to be watching on Netflix.
Instead of writing. That's amazing.
But yeah, it is a solitary activity. But in games, when you come out the other side with a script, it's not just, hey, I made this script, can you make it into a game? Because it's not. That's not fun for anybody. It then becomes a conversation of, okay,
every stage you have
every scene that you've written,
you have to talk with them.
Yeah, do we need this line? Could we cut that line for pacing? Or, hey, instead of what you've written here, what do you think about this thing? Because we've invented a new gameplay system that we think is really exciting in this moment. And sometimes those scenes work together with game design in a really beneficial way that's like, oh, yes, you should do that. That's really emotionally impactful. And other times it's like, oh no, we are speaking different languages and these don't fit together at all. How do we compromise? And it's a lot of compromise.
Yeah, I think in Montreal, if you stay here, I hope you really stay in Montreal for a long time.
Okay.
And maybe, for me personally, maybe have a customer.
Yeah, I'll give you a ton of money as long as I'm here. Trust me.
Yeah, and also it's the gaming business in Montreal is really a good city for games and for games. Don't give up Montreal then. The French is not that bad for English speaking.
It's not the French. It's not the French. It's just the family. It's just the family. But I do love it here. I love it. Every time we talk about leaving, it's like, but everything here is so nice. We've built a nice routine here. I love our apartment. And
seriously, if you move to another city, you work with different group of people for the games. So it's kind of start over, halfway.
A little bit, that's,
halfway.
That's kind of our anxiety. The nice thing is my team for the game I'm working on is everybody's remote. We have people in Germany, England, Amsterdam, Montreal, California, Southern California, all over the place. Our team is everywhere, which is awesome.
That's amazing.
My partner's team, she works on a team of 3 people. It's her and the 2 guys at work, and they have their small little offices in their big building, and it's great. And the concern is, if we move, she'll be away from the team.
Jeez, that's a freedom. That's ultimate freedom you guys have.
It's a pretty good spot. This is the only upside of COVID.
Actually, that's the free on scale of 0 to 100, and you have the 100 on the freedom. Having a restaurant is 0. Actually, every week I have to go twice to a vegetable place to get boxes of vegetables twice a week. So physically, I cannot leave a week.
Do you close? Do you have we're off on Sundays and Mondays?
No, we don't have.
Never.
Do
you take time off?
No, that's the problem.
You gotta hire an assistant manager. Hey, you're taking weekends. I'm out of here.
It's a small restaurant. It's very tough. I need to walk away next year or sometime. I need to find somebody can take care of but it's small business, the restaurant, family restaurant business, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
You know?
But you've been doing it for how long? How long is this?
8 years.
And you had the previous building, but now you're here.
Yeah.
8 years.
4 years here, 4 years in Coordination.
Pretty good.
But the problem is like we barely surviving.
Sure.
It's like it's kind of very demanding. So I literally cannot live for a week, like a whole week.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic, my wife took her dad, mom, and then our daughter to Mexico. They all went without me. So we have to
work around.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's maybe the failure of my part. So I need to find a good model, better model to do things.
So it's not all on you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. That's why I'm saying like right now I worry a lot every day. I worry. So we need to find a way to have the family restaurant business to make sure like I can live a week. 2 weeks will be the perfect. So I can go visit China, my parents, or like Mexico or Cuba or anywhere, like 2 weeks. Right now I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So last time it was 3 years ago when my daughter was 6. So 2 weeks I visit first time after she was born to the village, my parents. So that time my wife still in the restaurant. So that time I had a full-time IT job. So
and the restaurant.
Yeah, and restaurant. So that's why I'm saying I'm mediocre. If
I'm mediocre, I'm just working 2 jobs and sending my family to Mexico. That's notable, man.
Yeah, if this restaurant fails, I'm okay with it because like I did not put like sometimes I feel like the effort I always have, even when I had a full-time IT job, I kind of started on the side for 7 years as a restaurant.
Yeah.
So I was playing safe, you know. If you don't risk too much, if you don't put your effort in one thing, you don't expect to succeed. You know, that's my thing. That's why I'm doing the mediocre thing or the compromise. I feel like I don't. That's my whole thing. I'm not a guy have to be extreme.
Yeah.
If I see one direction, I say like, okay, I need to put all my effort in this direction. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm kind of play safe. That's why I expect being mediocre, because that's being fair in life. You know, if you don't put everything you have.
But I think that's healthy. I think putting all of yourself into something is a young man's game. Yeah. I think that I'm putting my heart and my soul and everything I am into this job or this individual thing. It can be all-consuming in a way that is self-destructive, and it can take away all your freedom and all your time and all your money and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't leave much room for anything else. And at least right now, you've got the room for it.
So that's why I'm not so extreme. I'm okay with everything. To be honest, if the restaurant go south, it's not end of the world for me. I probably go back to my IT job or something. But I'm more like interperson people. Like I can deal with a lot of people. Like I'm really flexible, to be honest. That's my strong, my strong point. And it's very, but I at the same time do admire people. They put everything, you know, they kind of, you know, really focused.
Yeah.
But I'm not really focused. I don't know. Even I'm doing this video, I know it's not going anywhere.
That's fine. We're just meandering
exactly.
It's perfect.
Exactly. So we leave something, you know, we record something with some guests, some people, like we tell our stories. It could be naive later when we look back later, and like even some ideas I have, it's really naive. I think I'm 42 years old, but I think I'm really like naive. A lot of people think like you think like you are 21 or 18 years old. It's kind of a I like that kind of. I think a lot, to be honest. The first job I traveled to Egypt, we spent 6 months, like one project, 6 months.
That's a long time.
So we stayed there alone, with colleagues. But a lot of time we did a lot of thinking, and also we do the internet. Remember, we have Great Firewall in China, so a lot of information, a lot of BBC, CNN website we could not visit. So kind of the first time you kind of, what the hell? We can see all this website.
The internet's huge.
Yeah, it's kind of. Can they see this? This guys you must be arrested.
Yeah, this guy's saying some shit. We gotta call the cops.
Yeah, exactly. So, kind of people dare say this, people dare write those kind of articles. So that kind of, I had a lot of time to, when we do projects during the day, and then we go to the customer side, like Egyptian company, telecom, whatever the name, or the British telecom. We will, during the day we went to customer side, we work on the customer side, and then after 5 o'clock we go back to the apartment the company paid for.
Yep.
And then kind of nothing to do. Let's go to internet. And the BBC, CNN, whatever, all other sites, and the Chinese website as well in Chinese. Like, what the hell, you guys? You kind of, you wrote this thing about our Chairman Mao. Like we respect like 100%. Like, kind of he's the god of the generations. Like, what else? Like, you have this kind of stories. That's kind of insane. And after reading so much, like, you think about everything. That's the thing, we think a lot.
Yeah.
Like, especially the programmers, I did not do the programming, but a lot of the developers, outside, we were debating a lot. Actually, we were debating. Actually, we can go to some barbecue places, but we can expense the cost, right? Because we're on project, right? Yeah. And we spent like 2 hours debating. We had all the beers and the food and like
that's the good stuff.
Yeah, and we were super young. We're 25, 24, 26 years old. We're debating about the history character, history very recent.
Yeah.
Like, we're revered so much, and one side say, "Oh, we should not he's something he did was wrong or something." Like, we're debating actually. We're kind of like had a beautiful thing and then have drinks, and we'll spend 2 hours. We spent 2 hours debating like redneck. It's amazing. So that's why we think too much.
Yeah.
It's too crazy. That's gave me a lot of these crazy ideas of.
Yeah. Thanks. Some water would be good after a whole bottle of sake.
Yeah. Oh. But you are doing well after that, after the leaving year, right? You are doing.
Yeah. Because my company got acquired, so we got another company bought us. So now we're doing great. We're a small team, and it was like an independent studio, right? It was a small team, and it was founded by a guy who was like 23, dropped out of college, decided he wanted to make games. Learned. That's
always a good sign. If you drop out of college, that's always a great sign.
Yeah, and he's like, "This isn't for me. Instead, I'm gonna make stuff." And he made a game, and it was super successful. And then he grew a team around him, and then now we're working on a separate project, and it's great. So it's like a nice independent studio with a little bit of backing, and we're feeling good. It's nice.
But that's in Montreal, right? The whole
the studio is like it's because everybody's remote. It's like he's in San Francisco, everybody else is everywhere else, which is nice. So I'm in Montreal, and if I decide to move, I can move to Finland. I could move to Alberta. I could go wherever, and they'd be like, "Cool, like we'll see you at work." Whatever. As long as I can work roughly American hours and be there for my team and not let them down, it's all good.
That's amazing because you have so much. You have received so much recognition. So I think you don't have to worry about in 10 years, right?
God, I hope so. This is the thing too about writing is like. And this is especially true of screenwriters and novelists, is no matter how much success you're having, it's never guaranteed that anybody's going to give you anything. No.
I think people, you have the recognition and then the respect you have, at least you can guarantee. For me, I will feel pretty safe for 10 years. Actually, for this
I feel okay for now.
Yeah.
We'll see. It'd be nice. It'd be nice if like 5 years from now I was still able to keep doing this.
Actually, after for me, myself, the restaurant, after the Kim's tweet, I think I'm good for 2 years. Seriously.
A little bit of a boost? Yeah. A little bit?
That could boost, like, at least, like, I always tell people working for the restaurant, the people around, I think within 2 years we will be okay.
Well, that's the fun thing about Kim's tweet, is like, any random tweet can blow up. It can be super popular, super funny, 100,000 retweets, right? But that might be it. It's just like, oh, a lot of people saw and appreciated this joke. Yeah. That's it. That's normally where it stops. But you got like news coverage because of it. And I think that helps a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
And like once Global picked it up, it was like, okay, and then CTV and all these other outlets started to.
It's like the effect of the vaccine. At least give you 6 month protection. 6 months, like for
Yeah. Now you just need a little Kim Bel Air booster.
Yeah, probably another booster for like another 6 months.
Come on, Kim.
Yeah,
More viral tweets, please.
yeah. But like this 2 years, and it's kind of really helping a lot. And
Good.
2 years.
That makes me happy because I love your restaurant. I love your food. I'm so happy that it got the attention that it deserves, and it's not just me and Kim telling people like you gotta have it.
It's not. It's really helping 2 years. I totally like super lucky, to be honest. Like, but after that, I don't know. But I kind of hope like it will give another extra year, like 3 years or 4 years. But this kind of really tough.
I think stuff like this helps. I think stuff like dinner with the owner and the reviews and the video, like you having the dishes, and not just reviewing the dishes, but having like, okay, I put this in a box and I waited 30 minutes because I want to understand the customer experience. Stuff like that, I think genuinely, it shows people that you give a shit. You're not just making food and hoping that it's good enough, right? Like you are putting in the effort. You're understanding your customers. You're putting yourselves in their shoes. You're speaking to them to understand who they are. Like you're putting in more effort than I've seen any restaurant owner ever put into any of this.
It's called the shameless right now. But it's great. Okay, I guess we can. You don't.
We're all out. I'm full. We're out of sake.
Even out of water. Out of water. It's kind of it's great. Anything you want to add? Or like?
This was amazing. This was my first time eating in the restaurant. It was perfect.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, loved it. It was all right. The eggplant. I'm not a huge fan of the aubergine. I don't love it. I don't love it as a vegetable. This
eggplant,
is fantastic.
Because eggplant, there's a lot of pores inside, so absorbing a lot. So this.
Well, that's my thing. Is it's always very tough.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
it's very difficult.
You.
Yeah, very difficult to cook the eggplant. This
is like a nice. Yeah. It's not firm, but it's not squishy and gross. Yeah. It's just really nice. And the sauce, I don't know what's going on in the sauce. Fantastic.
It's a potato starch, a little bit. Yeah.
One more tasty eggplant.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. This was nice. It was nice to have dinner with the owner. Nice to talk about language, history, all sorts of random bullshit.
Yeah, with a lot of small chats, and I have a lot of ideas. If my English is much better, I probably can say I can talk about more about like my
You're very
own
down
thinking.
on your English. Your English is amazing.
Yeah,
I don't think you recognize enough that your English is fantastic.
Really?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. Sometime last time I was on the CBC radio, they asked one question I did not understand. The question I said yeah. I would say yeah. Okay. Actually, it's a pass. It's a pass. Actually, when I look back, listen to the radio interview. Actually, I thought it was not too bad. Actually,
I handled that all right. Considering I didn't know what the fuck's going on.
I guess the listening is difficult for me sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing about language is like it's different sets of skills. It's not just knowing the language. It's knowing the language, being able to read it, being able to understand it, being able to speak it. They're all different skills.
Yeah, and seriously, when our English is getting better, I want to talk about, discuss a lot of kind of stuff with other people. Yeah. I hope you can write a book. Actually,
Me too.
You have the skills. That's the writer. Every writer should write a book about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I have all sorts of notes and all sorts of ideas.
Yeah,
fiction. Actually make the time.
You already wrote a lot of fictions in the games, right? All the fictions.
But that's the hard thing is when you spend your whole day at work writing. It's very difficult to find the energy after for me. Some people it's not. Some people it's like, this is all I do. I do writing all day. I do writing all night. I get up early. I do some writing and then I go to work and then I do. It's a lot. For me, it's like I have a limited amount of gas in the tank, and once I spend it at work, it's gone.
I find it's amazing. People here, they read a lot of books. A lot of people still read books.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing. Like even
books are the best. Read books.
Even the first time I saw people still have the mail. They sent mails and letters. It's still in China. There's nobody using mail.
Wow.
So here they kept everything in the library. I live in the western small city. Like they have really nice library, and you can go there in the winter. You sit there, the nice sofa, and the people that have the computer for internet. It's amazing.
Sounds great. It's like a cool place to hang
Yeah,
out.
it's great. People like still. A lot of people reading books, and a lot of people write books. That's amazing. Everybody writing book.
Everybody writes.
Amazing.
It's wild how little
Yeah.
Like, it seems so daunting to write a book, but it's the kind of thing of like, if you just sat down with a pad of paper and you wrote 1 page every day.
Probably
1 page a day. That's it. It's like 500 words on a piece of paper.
You'd
have a novel by the end of the year.
I think
that's crazy.
Yeah. And next time, probably I see a book with signed by your name.
Yeah, I'll make sure you get a copy.
Great.
Someday, maybe someday.
Great. So, anything else?
No, I'm full. I'm satisfied. I'm a little bit drunk.
Actually, I'm not drunk. That much drunk. I feel a little bit on my face.
Actually. I don't. Yeah. It's all here.
Yeah, I feel.
I don't drink a lot. Like
I feel a little bit.
I used to go out and have drinks a lot, but I don't have alcohol in the house very often. So this is nice. It's a nice
finish the whole bottle. Thank you very much, man. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great, man. Okay, I can stop there.